the maternal father of the Pokémon world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 651, 200 years. Tomoyo and Sakura now roughly know the current time from some iconic historical events, mainly determined by Tomoyo, and Sakura's historical results are as stable as other results. The reason why this is an approximate time is because there were no major events in the Johto area at this time, and the chronology is still confusing. The time can only be roughly determined from the people here and what major events have happened in the Sinnoh and Kanto areas. Tomoyo judged that it should be about 570 years before the alliance, that is, nearly 770 years ago, about 200 years after Kurorido attacked Amu, after the time travel was discovered by the locals. Tomoyo and Sakura were regarded as messengers of Celebi because of the time card. At this time, the people of Yuansu City who lived here worshipped Celebi very much and believed that the wealth here was a gift from Celebi. Indeed, it is much richer now than it was 200 years ago, and the legend has been passed down here from generation to generation that Celebi will wake up again in 200 years. That's right, it's awakening, not appearing. According to legend, Celebi sleeps on the top floor of the Tower of Time, but no one has actually seen it before. When they saw the ship, everyone first thought that the sleeping Celebi had woken up. But later it was discovered that this Celebi seemed to have little power. Fortunately, Zhi's eloquent deception led them to think that he and Sakura were bringing little Rabbi to wake up the sleeping Celebi. At first, Tomoyo was not even sure whether there was a Celebi here because there was no sleeping Celebi in the third floor. Tomoyo once thought it was just a legend. However, under the preferential treatment of the local people, Tomoyo was regarded as a saint, and after being welcomed into the third floor of the Tower of Time, Tokipei reacted again and discovered Celebi sleeping in the cracks of time. On Lithis, Celebi didn't seem to want to wake up. But now, Tomoyo can only bite the bullet and tell everyone that if he wants to wake up Celebi, he needs a big bell. At least this seems to be very historical. The bell has been cast now and will be hoisted to the top of the tower today, so Sakura is a little anxious. Why are you lying? Is wrong. Amu educated Tomoyo sternly. Now Eminem hates lying. Tomoyo pursed his lips and said nothing, but Sakura immediately explained, it's not all Tomoyo's fault. They have good and bad people, and they always want to use the legend of Celebi to crown themselves and start a war. After knowing that we were Celebi's envoys, he tested us many times. Xiaoxing also asked us for help, and Tomoyo also lied to stop him. This little lucky Amu also already knows that she is the daughter of the city lord they met when they just traveled through time, and the good, bad person is a ninja from Kanto named Terei. It was learned from Xiaoxing that Terei first appeared 10 years ago, and Tomoyo suspected that he was a rebellious ninja from Konoha. 10 years ago, it would have been around the end of the Fourth War, although the Fourth Ninja World War greatly alleviated the conflicts between countries in the Ninja Village era. Konoha had a notorious internal organization that was disbanded afterwards. Even if the new Hokage did not liquidate it, exposed members were discriminated against. In the beginning, Terei acted very reliable. After joining the escort, he defeated many gangsters around him. However, after he became full-fledged, he became arrogant. Xiaoxing's brother also died inexplicably while going out. Now that the city lord is old, the next city lord will be chosen between Xiaoxing, the daughter of the city lord, who is a priest of Celebi, and Terei, who controls the escort team. Temple had already begun to secretly promote that Celebi does not exist now, and the surrounding areas will no longer be rich. Only by supporting him as the city lord and attacking the surrounding areas can everyone continue to live a prosperous life. The appearance of Tomoyo and Sakura made Xiaoxing relieved, but they also became a thorn in Terei's side. The two of them had been made difficult for many times in the past few days. Shuppei did not possess the real power of Celebi, and he was also tested by him. This is how Tomoyo's lie was forced out step by step. Now Terei is working overtime and has cast a big bell. It is going to be transported to the top of the tower today, proving that Tomoyo is lying. When Tomoyo and Sakura didn't know how to wake up Celebi, they didn't dare to reveal the time gap where Celebi was hiding, for fear that Tere would attack the sleeping Celebi. That Tere is very strong, Amu said, looking at Sakura. Sakura also understood what Eminem meant, and said angrily, if we fight alone, I should be able to win. But he still controls the escort team now, and Tomoyo said that this cannot be solved by force. 200 years, this legend. Amu vaguely felt that this legend seemed to have a meaning point. And is there really a Celebi sleeping in the cracks of time? Eminem also suspected that it was the one that had the time ripple taken away 200 years ago. By the way, Eminem, Kurorido asked me to give this to you, Sonoko said, taking out the Dialga stone from her arms. After Eminem saw it, he became even more convinced of this. I think I already know. At this moment, a burst of chants suddenly sounded outside. Eminem looked out from the window in the direction of the sound and saw a group of people pulling the rollers to hoist a big bell, and in this direction, Amu also saw a statue standing in front of the tower. There is a trainer on the statue. What kind of trainer it is, Eminem is not sure. And next to this trainer, there is a Styracosaurus. Is it a coincidence? Seeing Amu looking over, Sakura explained that one is said to be Xiaoxing's ancestor. He and his companion Styracosaurus guarded this place and united several villages to the west of Yuanzhou Lake to establish a village not far to the south. Liuanzuchim seems to be also called Lucky. Eminem vaguely remembered that before he had introduced Xiaojiju to a child in Hupan village. It seemed that was the name, but after Crowley Rido reminded Amu didn't teach those villagers anything. Could it be that Crowley Rido guided him again later? Eminem is not sure either, but when he saw that the clock outside was already being hoisted, Eminem looked at the Dialga stone in his hand again. Eminem became more and more convinced that this prophecy should be left by Kurorido. Amu, do you have any other Pokémon that can fight? Sakura said eagerly. It seems that he is preparing to join forces with Eminem and go head to head. No, take me to see where Celebi sleeps first, Amu said, holding the Dialga stone in his hand even more. Chapter 652 Awakening. Tomoyo and Sakura took Eminem to the place where Celebi was found, which was the Celebi statue on the 3rd floor. It's just that there are usually time gaps here. If there is no time card, I really can't find it. The entire 3rd floor is now divided into many small rooms. Eminem came out of the restroom and came to the largest square on the 3rd floor, where he saw the statue of Celebi. Just at this time, Xiaoxing had already rushed over. After seeing Tomoyo, he quickly asked, Tomoyo, Tere can't hold on anymore. He's already. Is your friend awake? Xiaoxing also knows Amu. A few hours ago, he and Yuanzi also suddenly appeared. Don't worry, we'll wake up Celebi right now, Tomoyo immediately said to Xiaoxing. Although I still don't know why Eminem is so sure, but since Eminem said it can wake him up, Tomoyo believed it. At this time, Eminem also heard some noise coming from outside. It seemed that Tere and someone wanted to come in. Soon some subordinates came to Xiaoxing and reported, priest, saint, Captain Tere wants to bring people in and ring the bell after the ceremony. Say yes, thinking about it, he must be talking arrogantly, convinced that there is no Celebi and wants to see the joke with his own eyes. Or the other party is suspecting that there is really a sleeping Celebi and wants to provoke Xiaoxing and Tomoyo to let him come in and stop Celebi from waking up. Xiaoxing saw this and said quickly, I'll stop them. I'm going to help too. Sakura followed and handed the time card to Eminem. Seeing them fighting for time, Eminem quickly awakened the time card. When I saw Shippei appearing in the form of Celebi and flying towards Celebi's statue, then the surrounding space was distorted. In a space that seemed to be separated from the real world, a Celebi could be seen sleeping inside. Eminem looked down at the Dialga stone in his hand. Speaking of which, you still don't know how to use it, but it doesn't matter. Eminem walked into the crack of time first. Hey, be careful. Yuanzi reminded quickly. However, I saw Eminem walking in peacefully surrounded by the time card. Silly bee. It was just a time gap, and even older Eminem had also gone in. Then Eminem used animal sense to try to awaken the consciousness of Celebi. Eminem guessed that, since he didn't know it, and Kurorido hadn't told him about it, then it should be Celebi himself who knows how to use it. Otherwise, what would you do with this? From the outside, it seemed that the further we entered the time gap, the slower Eminem's movements became, and in the end it was even unbearable slow motion. But Eminem was not conscious at this moment. A loud bell was heard. It seems that the big bell has been transported to the top of the tower. At the same time, Terei, who was wearing a green vest, also broke in with someone. Sakura retreated step by step, while the other party forced in step by step. As for the reason, in front of Terei, a flying mantis was holding Xiaoxing with its blade arm. Apparently Xiaoxing was captured by mistake just now, and then Terei kidnapped Xiaoxing all the way to threaten Sakura. Hahaha, didn't you say that? As long as the bell rings 3 times, Celebi will wake up. Celebi is burping? Terei's voice stopped abruptly when he saw Eminem and Celebi. Although Terei saw that one of the Celebi should be the fake that he had exposed before, but now there is really another sleeping Celebi. For a time, many of Terei's men were shaken. But Terei immediately shouted, "Okay, you have found another fake. Whether it's a fake, don't you know right away?" There are 2 more sounds. Just as Tomoyo spoke, there was another bell ringing above his head. At the same time, Terei also saw that Amu wanted to hand something to the sleeping Celebi. Terei didn't believe it when the bell sounded to wake him up, but now Eminem has already made a spiritual connection with Celebi. As long as he gives a Dialga stone to Celebi, plus the physical strength it has recovered from sleeping for 200 years, it can be restored. Master Terei. The subordinates on the side looked at Terei hesitantly. You guys, do you still want to fool everyone? There is no Celebi at all. The vitality here will soon decline. Only by letting people with strong martial arts rule and using more determined methods can. Terei said and continued. Want to take the opportunity to attack. However, Xiaoxing, who was being held hostage at this time, scolded. Shut up. In the 6 years since you became the commander, it is all because you have been using the lie that Yuansu will no longer be rich and the fallacy that only aggression can survive. You have turned Ensu City into a place full of strife. Are you still going to continue to be alarmist? Perhaps the miracles created by Celebi will eventually fade away, but as long as everyone works together, the future will not be far away. The establishment of Yuansu City is not only because of the richness here, but also because of the careful management and maintenance of our ancestors for generations. And you are just catalyzing everyone's anxiety, and then using everyone's anxiety to fulfill your conspiracy and selfish desires. You are not an ordinary exiled ninja at all, but a remnant of the root of Konoha. It turned out that Xiaoxing had been arrogant with him before. Although Tomoyo guessed his identity, Xiaoxing did not mention it. After hearing Xiaoxing's words, more of Terei's men were shaken, and Terei even ordered the flying mantis with a ferocious look. Kill her. Knife. Kill her. Stop. Sakura immediately took action as soon as she heard that the hostages were in danger, but at this moment, only the 3rd bell was heard, and at the same time, I saw the Dialga stone that had been handed to Celebi's arms, and then bloomed with a burst of strange blue light. Under this light, the time rift was originally connected to the surrounding space. The traces gradually disappear. Originally, when Eminem looked outside, he only felt speeding, as if he had accelerated several times, and had no idea what was going on, but now it suddenly slowed down. More than just recovery, the movements of Terei and his Pokémon have really slowed down, but Sakura seems to be unaffected. At this time, she directly activates the effect of power card, waving the pink little hammer, and Terei and his flying mantis were knocked upside down. Most of Terei's men were wavering in fighting spirit and hesitated to move forward, but there were also some of Terei's confidants who still wanted to resist. But I saw Eminem standing in front of the statue of Celebi, with a Celebi floating behind him with his eyes still closed. At this time, he gradually opened his eyes, and behind Eminem, a dazzling light point. Seeing this scene, everyone lost their fighting spirit for a moment. Chapter 653 Battlefield. When after Celebi woke up, his eyes immediately became colorful again, and after 2 cries I saw waves of time ripples surrounding me. Those who still wanted to fight slowed down their movements, although he was badly attacked by Helbo before. Helbo can slightly break the defense of Eminem, that is, the attack power is comparable to that of a black wizard who carries Thunder Feather and creates a good weather. In addition, the disguise made Celebi lower his guard, and he took advantage of Celebi to absorb Time Ripple to attack, and then he restrained this Celebi point. In fact, the time that this Celebi is in is further back than the Shoujo Celebi that Eminem has seen before. That is, it is stronger. Is there a specific Shoujo Celebi? It is better than the Celebi brought by and Eminem is not easy to measure point at this time. It set off ripples in time, easily restraining those who still wanted to fight. Although Xiaoxing is not a ninja, he also begins to talk away at this time, convincing everyone not to continue to be bewitched by Terry's expansion theory. Point when Celebi flew around Amu excitedly. In its eyes, Amu fought with it not long ago. Of course, this is indeed the case for Amu. Shishi. Celebi was happy to see that Eminem was fine, but he also fiercely condemned a certain dark wizard. That guy even improved his favor ability first, and then counted on Rabbi. Yes, I will definitely not let him go next time I see him. Eminem also vowed point, but at this moment, Eminem and others suddenly felt that the surrounding space began to distort. This is Eminem had already realized something. Point the so-called waiting people are exactly Eminem, Sonoko, Tomoyo, and Sakura. These 4 people who shouldn't be here. Celebi's voice came over unaffected. Point at the same time, because of animal sense, Eminem also understands its meaning from the bottom of his heart. Tomoyo and Sakura have stayed in this era for half a month. It seems that the limit is only half a month. This kind of time travel is originally repatriation within a limited time. This is normal now. Tomoyo, Sakura, Xiaoxing became a little anxious when she saw this. We are going back. Tomoyo also roughly understood what happened. We will miss you, Sakura said sadly. Point after all, they are separated by 600 or 700 years, and I'm afraid it is no longer possible to see each other again. I will definitely remember everyone, Xiaoxing also said quickly. Point the next moment, the tide of time has formed and is about to involve Eminem and others when Celebi flapped his wings again at this time. Firstly, he gave his power to Eminem and others to protect them. Secondly, Celebi conveniently took the Dialga Stone, stuff it back to Eminem. However, on the Dialga Stone, at this time, Eminem could no longer feel the power of time and was replaced by rich vitality. Under normal circumstances, after Celebi absorbs or smooths out the time ripple, the surrounding area will be full of life for a long time. Point on the other hand, if time ripple is plundered, its vitality will decline, and Celebi will also be weakened for a long time. Eminem speculates from this that, although Kurorido has captured time ripple, the method of use should be the same as similar to Celebi. It is not a complete plunder, so after 200 years, the area around Yuansu City will be very rich. In addition, this Dialga Stone can replenish energy to Celebi. Can it also be regarded as producing similar effects to time ripple, but now the power of time is gone, replaced by the power of vitality. Amu thinks it is probably caused by the absorption of Celebi. Point it's just that unlike the time ripples that appear in nature and feed back to nature, the vitality of this Dialga Stone is still locked in this stone and was given to me by Celebi. Eminem thought so. Point after a familiar feeling of time travel, the 4 of them appeared out of thin air in a chaotic place, seemingly still in the Scorched Tower. No, it should be said that they were in the Tower of the Bell, but the surroundings were in chaos. Be careful. As soon as Amu stood firm, he noticed an electric attack coming towards Chais. He quickly pulled her back and pushed forward himself. Point boom. The aftertaste of 100,000 volts was blocked by the dragon scale wall around Eminem. Who the trainer who commanded the electric dragon to use 100,000 volts, was also surprised at this time. Why did these people suddenly appear? Is it protective color? But I didn't see any Pokémon. He didn't attack here intentionally, but he was fighting with others, and happened to sweep here. It's not just him either, the surroundings were in chaos. The 4 of them were directly on the battlefield this time. What year is it now? Amu wondered. It's inexplicable. Let's just capture him without any help. Alliances. Lackeys. Do you think you have sneaked in? Hahaha, Slim. Shady? Eminem also discovered at this time that the battle was roughly divided into 2 parties, and almost all of them were dressed in the same uniform. You can tell by looking at the clothes. One side is silver and the other is gold. Although the style of the former looks a bit old-fashioned, it is very similar to modern clothing. Like, there is a faint Sinnoh style. On the contrary, the latter's style is a bit like the old uniforms of the Quartz Alliance, but now the 4 Eminems are not regarded as one of their own by both sides. No wonder. After all, they had just traveled through time, and had no time to change their clothes. The 4 of them were really dressed up in strange clothes. Sakura. Eminem had no choice but to prepare to fight. On his side, he was in a dilemma without Pokémon, with only himself and Sakura as human combatants. Fortunately, just at this moment, after hearing a familiar roar, a biting land shark landed in front of Am and others, stopping both sides who attacked them. Sister Zillan? Amu's eyes lit up, and he quickly found someone. Bite. The land shark. You guys are indeed from Team Galaxy. The traitor's accomplice? Damn it, he actually escaped. Slim. Shady. Eminem doesn't know why, but after Sister Zillan's biting land shark appeared, both parties still regarded them as enemies. How long has Sister Zillan traveled through time? Is it so offending? At the same time, Eminem could not find where Sister Zillan was. Shark. Lee bite land shark roared, then lowered his waist and slashed the ground with the fin knife on his arm. Suddenly, sand and rocks flew, blocking the sight of the 2 of them. Then with a look, he motioned for Amu and the others to follow. Eminem also understood the meaning and did not fight. He immediately called on everyone to follow the bite the land shark and escape together. After losing their target, the people of the Quartz Alliance and the Galaxy team began to fight against each other again. The escaped weirdo and the enemy in front of them. Of course, they had to deal with them first. Dang. It's the last day. It's the last day. If you have a monthly pass in your hand, don't waste it. Please give me a monthly pass. Please give me a monthly pass. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 654 Concept of Time and Space. Bite the land shark travels through the chaotic battlefield, sweeping away enemies whenever it encounters obstacles, but never pursuing them, only trying to escape. Eminem doesn't know what the situation is now. Judging from the current situation on the battlefield, ZHU Sister Lanzace, biting the land shark, even if it cannot sweep away, the battle can be ended quickly if it helps one party. When they came to a gap in the rock wall, the fire-bite land shark jumped up. Seeing this, Amu also picked up Sonoko and jumped up. Sakura also flew up with Tomoyo. After arriving at this corridor, after twists and turns, the surroundings finally became quieter. Because it was a dead end, there were not many people. Then I saw Zao wearing a cloak and carrying a little Eevee, who was here to respond. Ibrahimovic. When little Ibrahimovic saw Eminem, he wagged his tail. However, although it is Eminem's Pokémon, little Eevee is closer to little AI. It is probably because he felt the kindness of Shirley when he was controlled by the Dark Organization. Zao. AI. Are you okay? Where is Sister Zillan? Eminem still didn't see Sister Zillan. Sister Zillan was caught. But Brother Lai is here. Sister Zillan should not be in any danger. She is just under control. Zio AI didn't know when it started, but she had already called Sister Zillan. As for Brother Lai, this is the name of this Lie-bite land shark. What time is it here? Why is it so chaotic? How long have you been here? Although Eminem had some guesses, he still asked. The 48th year of the Alliance, December 21st, Bell Tower. ZioAI said very accurately. Unlike Eminem and Tomoyo, ZioAI, who traveled to the early days of the Alliance era, knew the exact year and date, 48 years. Tomoyo frowned upon hearing this. What's wrong? Sakura looked over in confusion. Even Yuanzi said with some recollection, I seem to remember something. Tomoyo glanced at the two of them speechlessly and realized that Sunoko's history was not much better than that of Sakura, which was just the difference between Walling and Phoenix. As for Eminem, I have never been to school at all. I only have common sense about history and no knowledge on purpose. In the 48th year of the Alliance, the Galaxy team was expelled from the Johto area by the Quartz Alliance. The last battle was the 7-day battle that took place in the northern part of the Enzo area in December, when the Bell Tower became Burn. That battle with Gyro Tower. Tomoyo said at this time. As for the specific date of the 7-day war, because the historical test points are not accurate today, Tomoyo doesn't know. However, ZioAI added at this time, the day after we traveled through time, the two sides fought at the Bell Tower. Today is already the 7th day. The Alliance army received guidance from the Yuansu survivors and bypassed the surrounding areas. The guard entered the Bell Tower, guarded by Team Galaxy through a secret passage. Slim. Shady. It seems that this is just in time for the decisive battle. In addition, Eminem discovered that from the perspective of time travel, he and Sunoko lasted for 1 month, which lasted the longest, and also had the largest span of time. Tomoyo and Sakura lasted for half a month, and the span was medium. Sisters Yuran and ZioAI lasted for 7 days, and the span was the smallest. This is also consistent with the distance between the three groups of falls at that time. Eminem thinks it is not a coincidence, but some kind of time and space principle. I haven't thought about it in detail now. I will write it down in my diary later. Sister Yuran was caught by the Galaxy team. Then, haven't you ever reconciled with the Alliance? Why don't people in the Alliance know brother lie? Eminem wondered. ZioAI was silent for a moment and then said, Sisters Yuran's ancestor seemed to be the leader of Team Galaxy. At first she wanted to sneak into Team Galaxy, facilitate Team Galaxy's evacuation, and guide its cadres to initiate reforms, but she was later discovered. After that, Sisters Yuran asked Brother Light to follow me, and told me not to accept the threat of Team Galaxy, no matter what the situation was. Then she took the initiative to confront and negotiate with the cadres of Team Galaxy. Now I'm being kidnapped. Eminem understands that Sisters Yuran's trump card is still out there, and the people of Team Galaxy don't dare to do anything to her otherwise. Brother Lai will definitely be killed indiscriminately. A championship level biting land shark may be difficult to change the outcome of a large scale battle on its own, but it is definitely a decisive force that can shake the balance of victory and defeat. I also reminded her that, whether it is from Dr. Roke's early classic view of time and space or Dr. Rollin's new view of time and space, even if we travel through the past, we can only cheat history, but cannot change the past. But ZioAI said, shaking his head very maturely. As for Yuran's thoughts, Eminem doesn't think Sisters Yuran doesn't understand. Although judging from her own experiences after time travel, she often becomes part of history and does not change the past. But Eminem can also understand Sisters Yuran's approach point. When you see the hope of changing something you care about, you will definitely try, even if you know it's impossible. For example, if Eminem meets Kuro Rido again, he will definitely fool him. Yuran's great-great-grandmother Ganlan is now the leader of the Galaxy team. That is a high-ranking cadre point, and Ganlan is a hardliner. In history, until the final defeat of Team Galaxy, Ganlan also died in the battle. It's just that Ganlan also looked down on the guys in Team Galaxy who were living an ignoble existence, hiding and causing trouble everywhere, which was the prototype of the current Team Galaxy. So he made his descendants live in seclusion. As things turn out, one of her descendants emerged, Yuran, who loved mythology and archaeology. and became the champion of the Sinnoh League point. Although there are no rumors about this matter among the people, many league leaders are aware of it. Most of those who knew about it also had respect for the original leader Ganlan, although he was also an enemy of the alliance at the beginning. Unlike those despicable guys in the current Galaxy team, they naturally did not reject ZHU Lan. Because of this, it is inevitable that some people will care, but since Zealand has convinced most people, it will not affect anything. Huh. What do you think? You are so awesome. Xiaoying said with great admiration as she looked at Xiao's various quotations from scriptures. Xiao AI, Yuanzi is already used to it. Xiao AI often says very powerful things at this time. Tomoyo looked at Xiao AI and then said, but there is indeed a theory. A large part of the cadres of the Galaxy team who left to form the Sinnoh Alliance in the future had fought with the Quartz Alliance. The mainstream view is that they during the battle with the Quartz Alliance, I was inspired by the spirit of the Alliance. Now, it seems that Zealand may also have contributed to this. However, it is not wrong to say that it is the inspiration of the Alliance spirit. This is the spirit conveyed by the Sinnoh champion himself. At this time, Xiao AI led everyone to a relatively quiet place, and then everyone started studying the matter of rescuing Zealand. Dang. Please give me a monthly pass. Please give me a monthly pass. Chapter 655 Lurking. December 21st. Bell Tower. Although they were in the Bell Tower, there were signs of dilapidation and damage everywhere at this time, which was obviously the result of both time and war. Tomoyo and Sakura, who had seen the completed state of this place, were filled with emotion. Sister, Zealand is imprisoned on the 3rd floor. Now the Alliance army has just invaded. There are fighting trainers everywhere on the 1st and 2nd floors. Once the Galaxy team is completely at a disadvantage, there is no guarantee that Sister Zealand's safety will not be endangered. However, the 3rd floor building, it is intricate and complex, and it is not an overall space like the 1st and 2nd floors. I only know a few locations, and this secret passage can only go to the 2nd floor. Xiao AI said worriedly at this time point. Previously, Xiao AI and ZHU Lan did not fully gain Team Galaxy's trust, and they could not move around freely when they were on the 3rd floor. As for the current secret passage, it was Zealand who told Xiao AI. It was discovered by Zealand during archaeology later in life. At that time, Zealand felt that this corridor was very hidden. As expected, it was relatively well decorated 150 years ago. Before, here was a secret passage point. However, the 3rd floor has been destroyed in later generations, and Zealand also turned a blind eye to the structure of the 3rd floor. I know the terrain of the 3rd floor, Tomoyo said immediately after hearing this. Xiao AI was stunned when he heard this, and immediately showed a look of surprise, guessing that Tomoyo must have went to the time when the Bell Tower was already built, and for some reason, he had been to the 3rd floor, and was even familiar with it. I also know a secret passage that can lead directly to the inner corridor on the 3rd floor. Sakura added at this time point. Hearing this, Tomoyo looked over in surprise, and Sakura explained that Terry suddenly came around behind us from the secret passage, and that's why he kidnapped Xiaoxing. Did you see how to take the secret passage? Amu asked curiously. I didn't see it, but I saw the location of the entrance and exit. The entrance is somewhere in the corridor on the 2nd and a half floors. Sakura felt guilty at first, and then immediately emphasized point. Eminem was still thinking, and Tomoyo said at this time, there is no time to hesitate. According to history, on the 7th day, a big explosion occurred on the 3rd floor of the Bell Tower. Just like the scorched tower we saw before. The entire 3rd floor, as well as the original clock tower on the top floor, were completely destroyed. Slim Shady. Only then did Eminem remember that there was such a thing. The scorch of the scorched tower was on the last day of the 7-day war. That who did it? Amu asked quickly. I don't know. The book only says it was destroyed by the war. According to folk rumors, some say it was a trap set by Team Galaxy, while others say it was the Quartz Alliance who invited Ho-Oh. Tomoyo shook his head and said, it seems there is no time to hesitate. Amu looked at Tomoyo, Yuanzi and Xiaoi at this time point. Chais understood what he meant and immediately said, as long as we find Miss Zealand, we can immediately activate the time card and leave. No matter how weak we are, if we don't follow now, the process of rescuing people will be lengthened. When Celebi sent Eminem and others away before, he also blessed the time card with the power of time. After that, Eminem and his group could activate the time card to send themselves back to the original time. After hearing this, Amu also understood that Tomoyo was right. Now is not the time to let them stay to protect him. Okay, then let's go together. Amu said and nodded. Lie. Of course brother Lai knew what everyone was going to do, and he also followed Eminem and others at this time. This remote corridor has reached its end, and outside is the second floor space, where chaos, shouting, and killing sounds can be heard coming in. You have to go through here to get to the stairs. Brother Lai took the lead in a sprint. Maybe he can rush over, but Zio looked outside at this time and then said worriedly point before. He just escaped into a deserted corridor, so no one came to bite the land shark. But if you have a clear purpose and want to kill upstairs, I'm afraid even the people from the galaxy team on the battlefield won't let you go. That's right. Use the spell you experimented with that day. Yuanzi immediately looked at Amu. Curse? Tomoyo looked over in confusion point after hearing this. Eminem's eyes lit up at first, but then he hesitated. It's not very good, is it? The effect of that spell is limited, and it is easy to be discovered. Didn't you discover it that day? That's because there are only two of us. Of course, you can find it if there is a little noise, and you also touch the table. It's impossible to find it in such a mess. Sonoko said confidently. Old card. Old card? Eminem called Leoka in his heart, snoring, snoring, snoring. Leoka was obviously pretending to be asleep, and his attitude was very disdainful, but the stuff was handed to Eminem. At this moment, Amu stretched out his hand into the void, and then pulled out a magic wand out of thin air. The whole body of the wand seemed to be covered with dragon scales, which were densely packed and looked very textured. The core of this wand is made of genuine ambergris, the same wood that was poured out when Leoka was drooling in his sleep. The outer part is covered with Zengbajinga's dragon scales, which were all naturally shed by Leoka, and the top is embedded with Zengbajinga's dragon claws, which are Leoka's broken nails. Eminem has made several wands, but none are the most suitable for him. After all, Eminem is a dual path person of Moon plus Mother, and he is not good at the dragon system anyway. But the material level of Leoka is too high. Eminem does not seek the best for him, but he wants Leoka to be able to deliver. What's more important is that Eminem hasn't learned anything about magic. How can it be so easy to learn when Eminem casts spells by himself? He is usually very poor, but he can use his own spells to activate the power of the wand. If you want to cast a spell, you have to rely on Leoka to add the skill to the wand first, and then Eminem activates the wand. Compared with Leoka's direct use of skills, the advantages are not without, but it is not obvious in Eminem himself. With the magic wand, Eminem can use some magic on others. That is to say, the power of some old cards can be used on other people in disguised form, but the effect is much weaker. As for what magic can be used, then it depends on what wands Leoka can make without a trace. After Amu pulled out the wand, he shook it above his head, and suddenly it seemed as if a piece of invisibility cloth was weaved in the space. The shrouded biting land shark, as well as Amu, and half of the garden, were all visually weaved invisible. Wait, there's still half of the leg left outside, Tomoyo said, looking down at the garden. It's so big. Coming quickly, Amu said, lifting up this invisible cloth with his wand. There is no way. Leoka is not good at protective color at all. After all, it never has to avoid anything. It just knows a protective color. As for why Kalan has protective color, although Leoka's race is indeed a Kale dragon, it is certainly different from ordinary Kui dragons. It is also a dragon ancestor. In Leoka's own words, in theory, it can master all the skills that dragon Pokémon can master. Eminem also asked it if it could use Zygarde's 1000 arrows, 1000 waves, core Punisher, but Leoka ignored him. Seeing this, Tomoyo and Sakura hurriedly got in. But the space was really not that small, mainly because the bite land shark was too big, and it had already consumed most of the effective area when it was placed on its point. And what's even more inconvenient is that inside, except Eminem, no one else can see each other. Ah. Sakura suddenly exclaimed. What's wrong? Tomoyo asked quickly. Ibrahimovic. Little Ibrahimovic called out at this time. Sorry, it was little Evie who caught you. ZOI explained. It doesn't matter. By the way, what you two just said, how did Eminem try this spell? Tomoyo suddenly asked. It's not important. Move forward quickly. Everyone must stick it up and don't expose anything. Dong dong. Please give me monthly votes. There are still 82 votes left to reach 2000. It's the last 2 hours. Chapter 656 Invisibility. Hey, Sonoko, you made a mistake again. Sakura said helplessly. Sorry, my motor skills are average. Sonoko said apologetically. Yes, Miss Sonoko's most powerful thing is her wisdom. Ah. Who? Tomoyo suddenly exclaimed. I said point at this moment. Someone outside suddenly shouted. Huh. Everyone, be careful. Someone is hiding. Hold tighter. Come closer. Eminem realized that someone was showing off and shouted quickly. Fortunately, the battlefield was in chaos. Although someone might have discovered something, they had no time to worry. Even the defending Galaxy team didn't pay much attention to the invisible enemy because someone was guarding the passage between the second and third floors. Although there are few Pokémon that can use protective color, there are still some. However, if they are not awakened, it is difficult to exert the invisibility effect, especially when assisting companions to invisibly transform into a hidden dragon. In this regard it's a bit stronger, but in the end it's just visual invisibility. Even through the chaotic battlefield, it is impossible to pass through the place where trainers and Pokémon are on guard. However, Eminem and others did not want to force their way through. It's around here. Wait a minute, I remember. Sakura started groping on the surrounding walls. When she was halfway up the stairs she only knew that the entrance was nearby, but she didn't see how it was opened. Everyone groped around for a long time, but couldn't find any open mechanism, which made Sakura almost cry with anxiety. Isn't it an agency? Amu suddenly thought of something at this moment. Then I saw Eminem pulling out a wand from the void. The style was slightly different from the one just now. Both were taken from Leocat, but different magic or skills became a different wand. Immediately, Eminem faced the wall in front of him, waved his wand and said, "Open the Alala hole." The Alala cave opened. When Crowrido traveled to Alala, he discovered a kind of magic from the witchcraft of the local primitive wizards. The so-called magic is actually the summed up awakening skill. The method can be called magic or witchcraft. This spell is derived from skills such as splitting tile or spiritual fang. The focus is not on attacking, but on destroying the barrier. Many wizards will apply barrier skills such as light wall, reflective wall, and protective color in places that need to be kept secret and sealed. This Alala hole open is specifically aimed at this. It can be said to be a kind of opening the door. Skills, however, unlike Alalan opening in Hamal's original work, Alala opening only targets the closing effect caused by magic or Pokémon skills. It usually has no effect on the real lock of the physical structure unless some weird effects are awakened. At this time, after the power of Alala cave opening swept across, I saw some bulges that were not there before on the wall in front of me. This is, Sakura said in surprise. Try it, Eminem said. After breaking the sealing effect caused by the skill, just pull on it to open the mechanism of the physical structure, and immediately a small door opened on the wall. At this moment, the person guarding the entrance to the third floor seemed to hear something and walked down. Quick. After Eminem whispered, everyone immediately got into the door. Among them, fierce biting land shark had a hard time trying to get through the small door. Eminem had to make up for it with a kick from behind before it could pass through successfully. This led to Brother Lai baring his teeth at Eminem after he came in. Lai, okay, manly man, be more generous. Eminem raised his hand and patted it on the shoulder. Brother Lai is from the mother. ZOAI emphasized point only. Then did Amu notice that there was no notch on its dorsal fin, which he had never noticed before. No. This door can't be closed. Sakura worked hard here for a long time, and the footsteps above were getting closer and closer. After being opened by a Lala, the magic on it became ineffective, and the mechanism was no longer very useful. I'll do it. After Eminem whispered, he changed the wand to the previous one, then waved at the door and said, without a trace, I saw the previous invisibility cloth covering the door. The invisibility spell awakened by protective color essentially just creates a layer of barrier that changes color according to the environment. If the environment behind changes, the effect of visual invisibility can be achieved, and now Amu makes the barrier look the same as on both sides, naturally hiding the entrance point. The guards patrolled by and found nothing. Did you hear it wrong? There is nothing. Maybe it's the sound of fighting below coming up. Damn it. I want to go down and fight too. Don't be impulsive. We have our mission. Although that thing is not, but it is fast. By the way, Eminem and others also heard some of the conversation between the two, but they couldn't hear the later part clearly because they were far away. Immediately, Eminem and others also passed through the secret corridor. The corridor had a slight slope, and it was indeed connected to the third floor, and, fortunately, there were no side roads. After reaching the end, there was another seemingly complete wall. This time Eminem waved his wand directly, opened the Alala hole. After losing the barrier, the agency door revealed its true colors. Wait a minute. Eminem first stopped Sakura, who was about to open the door, then changed her wand and said, without a trace. Astonishingly, the door was covered with another layer of invisibility spell. The entrance to the secret passage was still there before, but now the area where we can be invisible is not enough. We can't block us all without blind spots. We will definitely be discovered after we go out. But now we block the door first, so that at least, if we just open the door, we won't be seen. To Eminem explained point. Then Eminem emphasized, but it's just that you can't see it. If there are people around, they will definitely be heard. Everyone is ready to fight and avoid. The exit is from the inner corridor. It's quite hidden. Otherwise, the guy from Terre wouldn't have succeeded before. After Sakura finished speaking, she took the initiative to stand behind Eminem. After all, she and Brother Lai are now in charge of combat. As for Zioken, it can only be regarded as a facade of combat power, only a facade. When he turns into Solgalia, he is very bluffing, but his strength is not as good as that of champion level Liege, and his methods are not as good as Sakura's. After Eminem carefully opened the crack, he looked outside. Fortunately, there was no one around. What do these guys want to do when they are trapped on the third floor? Are there any reinforcement? Eminem was also a little confused. If there is no purpose, they should all just go down and fight. Team Galaxy's fighting spirit is still very strong. Chapter 657 Acquaintance. Previously, ZOAI told Sakura and Tomoe the location where Sister Zilan was imprisoned. The two of them probably compared the place in their minds. It was roughly the room near the Celebi statue more than 500 years ago. At this time, only Amu and his group were seen. Amu was walking in the front, with his wand stretched forward, holding the invisibility spell, and passing in the narrow corridor. The area of effect of the invisibility curse is no longer large enough for everyone to be covered in it, but it can still be used as a shield to block the front. At this moment, there were oncoming footsteps in front, and Eminem immediately made a silent gesture and then waved his hands. Everyone moved to the side of the road, while Sakura and Brother Lai were also gearing up. When the patrolling Team Galaxy members, with their Pokémon on guard, passed through the invisibility barrier, Sakura wielded the sealing staff, and Bite Land Shark also waved the fin knives in both arms. Power card. The seal is lifted. Rock blockade. Instantly knocking out all the passing Team Galaxy members and their Pokémon. Amu didn't even try to ask anything, because this was not the first time he encountered patrolling enemies along the waypoint. At this time, Team Galaxy was very motivated and mostly determined. Normally, nothing could be obtained by forcing a confession, and Eminem and others did not waste time. Not far ahead is the location of the previous statue of Celebi. Tomoe reminded at this time, although Zio AI said that there are no statues there now, but since it is still an empty indoor square, I'm afraid there is a tough battle to be fought. Zio AI, UNZ, ZHISHI, you must stay with me for a while. And you, don't run around. Eminem finally hit Little Ibrahimovic on the head point. The three of them have little fighting ability, including Little Evie, and Eminem is not ready to let it fight. When it comes time to fight, Eminem is going to take them to hide aside and rush to the place where Zilan may be imprisoned. Although Little Ibrahimovic is not weak, compared with Sakura and Brother Lai, he is just an addition point. Eminem and others don't need to really confront Team Galaxy. As long as they find Sister Zilan and ensure that everyone is within a certain range, they can activate the power left by Celebi on the time card, set off the tide of time, and let everyone goes back to the time before time travel point. But the plan did not change quickly. Eminem and others had just arrived at the entrance of the square, only to find that the place had been decorated completely differently from before. Not only is it different from 500 years ago, but it is also different from the arrangement. When Zio AI escaped 2 days ago, an altar-like building was built in the center of the square, and what was worshipped above was not a statue of a god, but the Phoenix King. Wrong, it's a card. A card was enshrined on the altar, and the shadow of a Phoenix King emerged from the card, but it was also locked on the altar. That's Sakura's pupils narrowed upon seeing this. It's fire card. Zio-K also came out to confirm. Fire card? Shouldn't the Clo card at this time be in the Book of Sealings? Eminem said in surprise. Eminem has always felt that the Crow card should have been in the sealed book after the death of Crow Rido, until it was opened by Sakura. No, it's not that early to take back the Book of Sealings. But this is not the current Clo card, but the Fire card that traveled through time with us. It was in the Scorched Tower before when the time tide appeared. I felt something. Zio-K said at this time. That is to say, it is indeed a card that needs to be recycled. Amu looked at the cuffed fire card, then frowned and said, but why does this fire card look like it is about to be sealed? The Crow card that had broken free and had not yet been sealed appeared in the form of a magical creature, not a card. Sakura had to use the sealing staff to reseal it. But now, this fire card seems to be about to be sealed. Zio-K, what's going on? Isn't it just me and Eminem can do it? Zio-Ang also asked Zio-K doubtfully. This, I don't know either. Zio-K was also puzzled. And what are they doing? Just to reseal the fire card? Eminem was even more confused about Team Galaxy's motives. It seems that this is what the members of Team Galaxy were talking about before. But do the guys from Team Galaxy think that a fire card can turn the situation around? Otherwise, why would you study the fire card here after working so hard and ignoring the melee downstairs? If they misidentified the fire card as the Phoenix King, that would be fine, but judging from Team Galaxy's previous reaction, they already knew that this was not the Phoenix King. Although Clo card is very strong, and Fire card, as one of the 4 elemental cards, is considered top-notch among Crow cards, but it is still far from mastering a Fire card. Can turn the current situation of the war around. Otherwise, not to mention other things, the Wind card, which is also a 4-element card, is really so powerful in Sakura's hands. Why would Eminem and others still need to be sneaky? Lie. Brother Lai whimpered at this time, as if he felt something. I saw the leader of Team Galaxy walking over with a book in his arms. At the same time, Zilan was escorted out from another road for a championship level trainer. Even if there are no Pokémon around, they don't dare to be careless. At this time, they still put Zilan in hand shackles. Calm down, let's find a chance. Eminem comforted Brother Lai a little. Liang, do you know what you are doing? Zilan yelled at him. As soon as he saw him. Chais whispered. Liang was the leader of the radical faction of Team Galaxy during the Alliance War. He looked at Zio AI as he spoke. Zio AI explained knowingly, this person was not here before, but when others detained Sister Zilan, they seemed to have received orders from someone with a higher status. In other words, this scorching sun just came here, and probably came here for Zilan. What to do? Of course, for the final victory. Liang said, raising the book in his hand. Point at this moment. On the book in Liang's hand, a phantom of a head that looked familiar to Eminem floated out. This head is extremely ugly and even missing some necessary things. Yes. Sure enough, she is also a descendant of Ganlan. Unexpected. GGG. That's it. As soon as the strange head came out, he laughed strangely when he saw Zhu Lan. Point at this time, Eminem also recognized his identity. That's Herbo. Eminem recognized this head. Although he knew that this guy might have a Horcrux, he really didn't expect that almost 500 years later, this guy actually not dead yet. Helbo? That's not right. That bald head just has no hair, but it has a nose. Yuanzi was a little afraid to look at this strange looking head, but since Eminem said that, she still forced herself to look at it. Point after all, Eminem is not good at recognizing people. She was also afraid that Eminem would make a mistake. It's not wrong. Fortunately, I'm not good at recognizing facial features, otherwise others might not be able to recognize it. Eminem said confidently. Sonoko, your face blindness is already a category of metaphysics, right? Doesn't missing any facial features affect your judgment? Chapter 658 Resurrection. Seeing Herbo's translucent ugly head coming out, the other members of the Galaxy team present were also frightened and had some resistance. Point after all, most of the members of Team Galaxy today firmly believe that they are on the side of justice, which is different from Team Galaxy more than 100 years later, and the head in front of me looks very unjust. Captain Ava, who was in charge here before, couldn't help but ask. Team leader Liang, this is our ally Herbo. Liang said eagerly. Did Mr. Herbo just mention team leader Ganlan? Captain Ava's eyes became suspicious. The initial information from Liang was that Zulan was pretending to be a relative of team leader Ganlan, but was actually a traitor to the alliance. In addition, Ava had indeed discovered something strange about Zulan, including that she wanted to instigate rebellion against him. Only then did he completely believe it, and immediately seized Zulan. Point. Although Zulan is a championship level trainer, she only has Brother Lai by her side now, and the Pokeball has been lost, and she cannot take Brother Lai with her all the time, so it is easy to be caught by the opportunity of being alone. Point after Zulan realized something was wrong, she asked Brother Lai to take Zhao Ai to leave first. She still did not give up persuading Team Galaxy Carders to reduce losses. This loss has nothing to do with the enemy or ourselves, but to reduce the losses to all humans and all Pokémon loss. But now when Ava saw team leader Liang's reaction, he felt something was not quite right. Liang glanced at him coldly and then said, yes, she is indeed related to team leader Ganlan, but she has betrayed Team Galaxy and even used the banner of team leader Ganlan to join Team Galaxy internal sabotage. Team leader Ganlan has told me that she has nothing to do with this traitor. Of course, what Liang didn't tell the truth was that Ganlan didn't know Zulan's situation at all. He just told Liang that he didn't send any relatives to the Sinnoh. Point. But now that Liang said it, it seemed as if Ganlan no longer recognized Zulan as a relative. Point. Ava had realized something was wrong at this time, and immediately said, in that case, it is better to escort her back to Sinnoh and leave her to team leader Ganlan to handle it personally. Otherwise, if it affects the relationship between the two team leaders, you halfway. Through Ava's words, Mahula next to Liang suddenly took action and grabbed Ava with its sharp claws. Although Ava's poison skeleton frog also reacted at this time and wanted to resist, but in the face of strength, it was just as bloody as Ava. Point. However, the poison skull frog's attack finally allowed Ava to avoid the Mahula grabbing his vitals, but there was a deep and revealing wound on his shoulder. You also colluding with the alliance? Liang asked immediately. Team leader Liang. Captain Ava, there is no way he, a member of Team Galaxy came out to speak for Ava, but as soon as he spoke, he was killed by Liang's Mahula. Eminem was shocked when he saw it and said in disbelief, is this Liang, a lunatic? Tomoyo, who has read books and is also good at liberal arts, said, almost. Liang was the leader of the Galaxy team when they were defeated by the Sinnoh Alliance and transformed into a terrorist group. An There is a saying that part of the reason why Team Galaxy was defeated in SYNOPSIS was that it was Liang who, in the name of purging traitors, broke up Team Galaxy during that period, which accelerated Team Galaxy's of defeat. At this time, the fierce sun also shocked other team members present. After all, he was the highest ranking Kada present. Therefore, although the members of Galaxy team were dissatisfied, they were unable to form a large-scale resistance point at this moment. Liang threw an elf ball into the mouth of Halbo's translucent head. Then Halbo bit it, and a weak-looking Jenga was released from the elf ball. GG. You will soon witness the resurrection of the greatest dark wizard. Halbo said with a ferocious expression. This behavior made the other members of Team Galaxy around him frown even more. Eminem also discovered that Halbo's IQ seemed to have become lower. 500 years ago, this guy knew how to dress up as someone else to attack Celebi secretly. After discovering that Eminem could not be dealt with, he decided to negotiate a peace. But now he looks like a villain with low IQ. Eminem suspected that just like Nose, part of his IQ, or reason, was also lost while making the Horcrux, and the weak Jenga just appeared, and before he could react, he was immediately killed by Liang's Mahuala and a secret attack on vital points, really killed instantly, the one who was full of malice, and killed directly kind. Oh. Yuanzi couldn't help but said, but immediately covered his mouth. Tomoyo and others also looked ugly for a while. After all, in their view, directly killing a Pokémon was as unbelievable as directly killing someone, and it was a heinous act point, especially when Mahuala killed people just now. It was for the purpose of intimidation, and now it makes no sense to kill his Jenga. GG. The bones of relatives, the flesh of servants, the blood of enemies. Kurorido, and that nameless kid, just wait for me. Halbo was laughing crazily, and twisted at this time. At this time, Liang signaled his men to escort Zulan to the altar, but at this time the others also hesitated. Get ready, Eminem said immediately. He already understood what Halbo was going to do. I had learned black magic knowledge for a month from that bastard Kurorido. Although it was too late to learn to specific, it gave Eminem a wide range of knowledge in this area. The so-called bones of relatives, flesh of servants, and blood of enemies are exactly the resurrection sacrifices in black magic, and they are a kind of imagery. It's not really about bones, flesh, blood. The reason why Jenga was killed, judging from the fact that it was released by Halbo. Amu can guess the reason. This should be the Pokémon that Halbo conquered in the state of remnant soul, and it was probably Lebo. Yang helped him subdue it by force. The so-called servant meat refers to sacrificing one of your own Pokémon, and blood of the enemy can also be extended to blood of the enemy. If Eminem guessed correctly, the fire card on the altar is used for this. The crow card is undoubtedly Clo. So much hard work. If Halbo, a dark wizard, had the idea, it would make sense that people like Team Galaxy could forcibly seal the fire card. As for the bones of relatives, they must be the bodies of people who are related by blood. Judging from what Halbo said at the beginning, she is also a descendant of Ganlan. Amu guessed. Ganlan is probably a descendant of Halbo, but as the leader of Team Galaxy, Ganlan must have extraordinary strength. Liang, she had no chance, even if she wanted to scheme against him. After discovering that Zulan was a descendant of Ganlan, Liang and Halbo wanted to use her as a sacrifice. Liang cooperated with Halbo to help him resurrect. Eminem knew that they would be detrimental to Zulan later, so he immediately reminded everyone, prepare to take action. Dong. On the first day of February, please give me your guaranteed monthly ticket. Chapter 659 Fierce Fight. I saw Halbo's ugly head, now on the altar, opening his teeth, and dancing in front of Zulan. Push her up, Liang said to the team members who were escorting Zulan. Wait a minute. Ava stood up with difficulty. Mahuala, on the side, was about to take action again, but the moment it took action, there was a sudden explosion, and a dark blue shark shadow flew sideways towards the blazing sun at a speed that was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. It was Brother Lai who leaned down at this time, and then the ejection organ sprayed high pressure gas with all its strength, and hit Liang at full speed. The shark fins on its back made bursts of explosions. and the next moment, I saw Mahuala flying upside down, a huge wound blooming on its body, and blood spurting out. The level of tragedy was very un-Pokémon-like. It was at the last moment that Mahuala rushed over to block Leiji's attack, and was cut by Leiji's dorsal fin. Of course, Mahuala was not given in vain. After all, he was Liang's trump card. Although he was not at the championship level, he blocked Leech and knocked him into the crowd. However, Mahuala was seriously injured on the spot, and the Pokémon around it who wanted to stop it also flew out one after another. Fainting after losing the battle was a better outcome. Seeing that Zilan was in danger, so was Brother Lai now. Full murderous intense state. Oops. Hairbo reacted quickly and immediately didn't care about putting on a show. Why ascended to the altar? He rushed towards Zilan directly, but at this moment, a wall of light with dragon scale patterns suddenly appeared, knocking Hairbo dizzy. Immediately, Hairbo also reacted. It's you. Damn brat. It's you. At this moment, Eminem stood in front of Zilan, not only blocking Hairbo, but also separating the members of the Galaxy team who were originally guarding Zilan. It was precisely when Leech came out to kill Zilan, and attracted everyone, when he was paying attention. Amu also used the invisibility spell to quietly come to Zilan. Amu, when did you? Zilan was also surprised. She didn't know that Eminem had also come to this era point at the same time. Sakura was already riding her wand and flying towards the fire card on the altar. After the fire cards felt Sakura's power, they immediately cried when nothing happened. These Kuro cards like to play pranks in front of Sakura, but at this time, they asked Sakura for help. Even acting coquettishly. It's you. The descendant of Kuro Rido. It's you. Hairbo stared at Sakura again, point being stared at by such an ugly face. Sakura felt a little guilty, but he immediately turned to look at Eminem. You can't escape either. Damn little devil. The descendant of Kuro Rido. Damn. You little devil. Hairbo seemed to have entered a bug, jumping left and right between Eminem and Sakura. Slim Shady. Sure enough. Horcruxes. Affect IQ. Sakura. Eminem immediately gave her a wink. Ignore this retard. We quickly resealed the fire card, and we can leave at any time. Of course, it would be better if Hairbo's Horcrux could be destroyed. Before leaving point, all the members of Team Galaxy Present released their Pokémon one after another, and a fight was about to break out. But then Eminem shouted, Liang has betrayed Team Galaxy. We are here to arrest him. If it was half an hour ago, this statement would not have any credibility, but now, the members of Team Galaxy Present really felt like he didn't look like a good person. You see clearly, do these despicable people who collude with dark wizards look like our upright Team Galaxy members? Eminem immediately continued to shake everyone. Asshole, you lackers of the Quartz Alliance, do you still want to deceive everyone? Liang said angrily. What made him especially angry was that the team members around him seemed to look at him, somewhat acknowledging the other party's statement. I saw Liang releasing his other 5 Pokémon at this time, but when Hairbo saw this scene, he said angrily, what time has it been? Idiot. Use the spell I taught you. When Liang heard this, he showed a hesitant look, and Hairbo urged, have you forgotten your ideals? GGG, you are not willing to make such a small sacrifice. Shut up. Watch your own sacrifice. Liang heard this and said in anger immediately. Liang opened his mouth and a large amount of black mist flowed out from the 7 orifices. Liang's eyes could no longer see any human color at this time. It's not just the sun, his other Pokémon, including Mora, who was already seriously injured, quickly weakened and passed out. Eminem didn't know what he was going to do, but he immediately ran towards Hairbo, seeing that Sakura was about to break Team Galaxy's restraint on the fire card first, and then seal the fire card. And Hairbo also rushed towards the fire card. Of course Eminem doesn't want him to interfere with Sakura, but at this moment, Zilan suddenly shouted, be careful. There was no need for her to shout. Eminem was always protected by the dragon scale wall behind her, but the impact that immediately appeared behind him was far beyond Eminem's imagination. causing Eminem to stagger, turning around and looking. The black mist flowing out of the 7 orifices of the Liang suddenly turned into the appearance of a Pokémon, or rather, it looks like a mythical beast, nightmare god, Darkrai. This was not the first time Eminem saw Darkrai. The first time he saw Darkrai, Eminem forced it back, indirectly, with a big push. The second time he saw Darkrai, this guy also attacked me sneakily, but he also failed to hurt himself at all. I saw Darkrai in front of me, his whole body was like black mist. He just waved his arms, and his forearms instantly turned into black scythes, almost breaking Eminem's defense point. I don't know if it's because Eminem hasn't seen enough Darkrai yet, but I always feel that the Darkrai in front of me is very similar to Belmod's Darkrai, but at this time, Eminem had no time to think about it, and Darkrai was immediately thrown away by Brother Lei, and the two sides fought into a ball. Although the champion level Leixi is weaker than Darkrai, who appears in an inexplicable way, he can still fight 1 or 2. On the other hand, Sakura and Hellbow's ugly head, who was probably just a remnant soul, also started fighting at this time. Eminem followed the body of Darkrai and looked at Liang, who was motionless, with only 7 orifices still emitting black gas, and the book still in his hand. The real protagonist is always the one who faces the enemy directly, although he didn't know what the reason was. Looking at the way the two were still connected, Eminem felt that, as long as Liang was killed, this Darkrai should disappear, and this book must be Herbo. There is no doubt that, Horcrux, as long as it is destroyed, this remaining soul of his will be finished. Chapter 660, Attack the enemy and save it. Just when Eminem rushed directly towards Liang, preparing to perform the protagonist's behavior, several Pokémon around him surrounded him, not surrounding Eminem, but surrounding Liang outwards, as if they were protecting him. His look. These were not Hellbow's Pokémon. His Pokémon seemed to have fainted before due to the appearance of Darkrai. It's the Pokémon of the other trainers on Team Galaxy. Obviously, the others were not completely fooled by Eminem at this time. At least, it was impossible to look at Eminem and attack team leader Liang, who was a senior card. Seeing that Eminem was about to steal, Darkrai immediately reacted. He waved his hand first, and the majestic evil energy surged out of his black mist-like body. With a wave of evil, Brother Lei was knocked out, pushed to fly out, then he immediately turned back and attacked Eminem again. Eminem was unhappy that the sneak attack failed, but the current situation was not unacceptable. Eminem's own limited combat effectiveness is typical of high defense but low attack. It can even be said to be defense, but no offense. And the strongest opponent is the Darkrai, who appears out of nowhere. As for Herbo's remnant soul, it was just a remnant soul after all, and was no match for Sakura. Eminem's ability to hold back this Darkrai is definitely an advantage for his side. At this moment, Brother Lei shook his head, stood back up, and killed a group of Pokémon from Team Galaxy with Zillan's command, or Zillan's various trainer ability bonuses. Brother Lei fully demonstrated the strength that a championship level Pokémon should have. Even when faced with Darkrai, who has reached the combat power of a mythical beast, he can still go back and forth one-on-one. After being hit for a while, it doesn't seem to be a serious problem. In comparison, a certain champion in Kanto was helpless when facing Shen, which was indeed a bit embarrassing, and there was indeed an objective reason of the right time and the right place. The so-called champion level, that is, the outstanding part of the king level Pokémon, has the strength. After adding strong enough trainer special effects, there is no specific combat power level. After all, there are not many Pokémon that can be called champion level. Unlike king trainers and the like, even regional champions often do not have 6 championship level Pokémon at the same time. Pokémon's strength and abilities, in fact, at the championship level, including mythical beasts, it can no longer be measured by combat power. After all, it is just a statistical concept. When the calculated value is too low or too high, it will be distorted. After Darkrai was dragged down by Eminem, Leixi rushed into other Team Galaxy Pokémon, which was like a tiger joining a flock of sheep. But there were too many, especially when people kept coming. At this moment, Ken, who had been silent all this time, seized the opportunity. While no one was paying attention to the backpack that Sakura threw over at the beginning, Ken suddenly came out of it and evolved in a flash of light. It looks like Solgalia Point at this time. It is not too far away from the position where the blazing sun falls to the ground and smokes. T-Sun. God, how can it be? Could it be that other alliances are coming to support? As soon as Solgalia appeared, all the trainers of Team Galaxy were immediately thrown into chaos. Zyok ignored the others and ran directly towards the blazing sun. Idiot. Stop it. Hayabu yelled at Darkrai. Eminem is not afraid of Darkrai, but it also retreats if it wants to, and it is not something that Eminem can entangle. At the same time, Eminem also feels that Hayabu's attitude is a bit strange. If this is really Darkrai who follows the blazing sun, can he tolerate the tone of being an ally to those he follows? Zyoshen is definitely acting here. If Darkrai has such a good temper, then Eminem really wants to ask, where can I exchange Zapdos for Darkrai? The next moment, Darkrai blocked Zyoked at the last moment. Solgalia, who looked majestic and high-spirited, was no match for Darkrai. After all, this is not the real sun god, not even the real Solgalia. Without Darkrai to stop him, Eminem was about to rush towards the blazing sun again, but at this moment, Yuanzi suddenly exclaimed. Although they had tried their best to hide in the corner, the aftermath of the battle still affected Eminem's invisibility spell, and the scene around the three Yuanzi instantly caused ripples. Fortunately, no one was injured, but the situation where someone was invisible was exposed. GGG. Hayabu, who originally had only his remnant soul left, and his strength suddenly reduced, but was completely suppressed by Sakura with a blast, now seized the opportunity, ignored Sakura at all, and opened his mouth to spit out a burst of blue-purple flames. Shockingly serious. It's spiritual fire, or violent fire. In Hayabu's current state, most magic cannot be used, and the magic power has become thin, but the spiritual fire, which is the power of human beings, can still be activated. His current target is not Sakura, but the direction where Sonoko and others were exposed. Sure enough, when Sakura saw this, she immediately stopped her and had no intention of attacking Hayabu. In a battle between wizards, avoidance is very important, but now Sakura has to take the initiative to block, not to mention evade. Not only did the previous advantage disappear, but the despicable Hayabu directly started chasing Yuanzi and others to burn. After focusing on it, the invisibility spell covered by Sonoko and the others was unable to avoid Hayabu's perception. Shameless. Eminem was so angry. When Hayabu heard this, he even choked and coughed. You've been thinking about my Horcrux for a long time. Aren't you the same as me? The Dark Wizard really has a successor. This guy has double standards and is as shameless as me. In this way, Sakura not only has to switch from offense to defense, but also has to face Hellbow's attack on Tomoyo and others from all angles. Seeing this, Eminem couldn't think of continuing to break out, so he had to come to cover Yuanzi and others. But Yuanzi, Zishi, Xiaoyi, the dragon scale wall emanating from Eminem's body cannot protect so many people. After all, another spiritual fire, with a certain ghost type feeling came over, and Eminem and Sakura couldn't block it. It was about to burn Xiaoyi, but at this time, little Eevee suddenly kicked his legs, jumped out of Xiaoyi's arms, and directly blocked the spiritual fire. At the critical moment, the artificial keystone on Eminem's wrist flashed, and the little Eevee instantly evolved into a fluffy furred fire Eevee. The increased racial value is secondary, but mainly, the characteristics of fire Eevee are fire, of course. Fire cannot be completely immune when the difference in strength is too large, not to mention that it is not a serious fire. Eminem is also treating a dead horse as a living horse doctor. Yee with a scream, Ibrahimovic was instantly wrapped in flames. Bui. Xiaowei called out the new name that Amu didn't know yet, while Caring frantically tried to catch him, but luckily Yuanzi stopped him. I saw the dark purple, spiritual fire, burning brightly on little Eevee's body, with no intention of extinguishing it at all, and even burning more and more brightly, but at last, fire was not ineffective. At least he did not die suddenly on the spot. And even, it seemed that Ibrahimovic's body was not injured, but the sound was very painful, and it felt like his soul was being burned. At the same time, just when Hayaboji was smiling proudly, there was only a clang sound. The battlefield situation changes again. Fire card. The incarnated Phoenix King breaks free from his original shackles. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 661 Fire. Scold. I saw the Phoenix King transformed into Fire card, breaking free from the restraints and crying loudly. The originally translucent body of Hao gradually solidified, while the translucent cards gradually disappeared, due to Sakura's destruction before, and its own struggles afterwards. Team Galaxy's response to its seal has failed. At the same time, the eternal flame in Eminem's consciousness also flashed at this time. The eternal flame was Madara Uchiha, who merged with Zelny in the fire of Hao. Yes, he comes from the life force, and although the person incarnated by the fire card is not the real Phoenix King, it is still close to the power of the Phoenix King. But Eminem didn't have time to think about this at this time, and immediately stepped forward to catch Little Evie. Although Little Evie's body was burning with dark purple flames at this time, when it landed on Eminem's arms, it was separated by the dragon scale wall. At the beginning, Little Evie struggled violently and seemed to be in great pain, but it soon subsided. Eminem could feel that it wasn't that its injuries had eased, but that its vitality had withered. On the other side, Fire card broke free and cooperated with Sakura. The magical girl and Hao joined forces to fight against an ugly head. The latter was immediately suppressed and wanted to attack the opponent. Weakness. There is no chance. Amu. Buy-it. ZOAI stepped forward quickly. Don't worry. Leave it to me, Amu said with a stern face. I saw that the flames on Little Evie's body had gradually extinguished. This was the fuel. Little Evie's vitality had been burned out, so it was extinguished. Although at the critical moment, fire is immune to direct damage from most fires, but Hayabu prefers the ghost type, spiritual fire, which focuses more on burning the soul point. But at this moment, Eminem's body was gradually burning with flames. It is Eminem who is trying his best to inspire the eternal flame. The flame of the real Phoenix King originally has vitality, recovery, and even a symbol of resurrection, not to mention the life force of the god of life Xerneas and the eternal flame. Eminem wants to use eternal flame to rekindle Little Evie's fire of life, but Eminem has never used eternal flame directly like this. It has always been passively effective, and Eminem does not have the ability to directly use eternal flame. At this time, Eminem is using the wizard's method to stimulate his own spiritual fire, so that his spiritual fire is integrated into the eternal flame. Eminem wanted to do this when he first learned it from Crowley Rideau. Now Eminem is still the harvest priest, and the extraordinary power originally has the image of vitality. However, Eminem has never really mastered spiritual fire, let alone integrated into eternal flame. I saw the flames around Eminem intermittently. It just barely slowed down the speed at which Little Ibrahimovic completely cooled down. At this time, ZOAI also gradually realized that Eminem seemed to be powerless this time. At the same time, Sakura was chasing Hayabu all the way, but ZOAI and Bite Land Shark, who transformed into Solgalea, were also at a disadvantage when facing Darkrai. The people of Team Galaxy also hesitated at this time. They couldn't figure out the situation now, and they had doubts about team leader Liang. When no one attacked him, they hesitated. Moreover, the magic beast release in front of them was somewhat beyond their understanding. Of course, so far, except for Darkrai, no one is authentic, and there are even doubts about whether Darkrai is real. Seeing Eminem rescuing Little Evie, the people from Team Galaxy didn't want to disturb him. Otherwise, looking at Eminem's expression, I always felt that something terrible would happen. Just as Eminem was trying his best to recall the spiritual fire that Kuro Rideau taught him, he suddenly remembered what he said when he was laughing at himself. Can't you learn this? This is not a problem with the teacher. It seems that Feng Wang must teach you personally. Phoenix King, Sakura, lend me the fire card, Eminem shouted immediately. Hayabu laughed slyly at this time. probably thinking that after the Phoenix King created by Crowrido left, he would have a chance. But, the next moment, after seeing Eminem's eyes, Hayabu decisively moved back. Apparently, he still remembers Eminem's previous fuck you in the face. Although he doesn't know what kind of magic it is, but it is indeed unmatched by Hayabu. It seems that the terrain is limited here, but who knows, if Eminem is in a hurry and will ignore everything until everything is blurred, it's better to keep moving and don't get close to the past. Fire card. Sakura called out at this time. Phoenix King heard the sound, glared at Hayabu, then flew down on Amu and instantly integrated into his body, as smoothly as if it knew what to do. Suddenly the flames around Eminem grew stronger, and, it wasn't that he was burning, but it was, as if flames were gushing out of him. At the same time, Sakura once again challenged Hayabu to a duel. She still had the advantage, but, she couldn't control this guy running around all over the place. Sakura, try that again. Zyuke shouted at this time. When Sakura heard this, she was stunned for a moment, then muttered hesitantly, but, I can really, no. Time to hesitate. Okay. Sakura took out the wind card, then waved the sealing staff and said, the seal is lifted. Suddenly, a storm was released with Sakura as the center. It did have an impact on Hayabu and even the surrounding Team Galaxy members, but, it was not that useful. GG. Did you just pick up Crowrido's wand? It's not the one he usually uses. It's just a staff. You should be just a chess piece of Crowrido's candidate. Crowley Rido really has bad intentions. Hayabu made a mocking noise while continuing to attack Sakura. He vaguely felt that the kid who was stimulating the spiritual fire was also locked on him at this time, so he did not dare to approach rashly, but kept moving. The seal is lifted. The seal is lifted. Sakura kept removing the seal, but the storm kept stimulating. But it didn't seem to have the effect Sakura wanted. At this moment, Darkrai seized the opportunity and used a wave of evil to knock Zyuke flying backwards and change back to his original form. Zyuke, hearing Zyuke's screams, Zyuing was so anxious that tears burst into her eyes, and she hammered the wind card, hovering in front of her again, shouting with such force that her voice broke. The seal is lifted. The next moment, I saw the wind card blooming with a brighter light than usual, and then the actual storm and thunderclouds surged out. After sweeping around the whole place, they condensed into a tornado cloud. Look, succeeded? Zyuke, who fell to the ground, was stunned when he saw this. When Sakura used the Claw card, before, she could only activate the magic on it, but could not completely remove the seal. Summon the magical creatures in the Crow card. The appearance of the tornado cloud immediately restored the balance of power on the field, and at this moment, Hayabu's remnant soul scalp exploded. I saw that the flames that originally surrounded Eminem all converged back. Eminem holding little Eevee suddenly felt quiet around him. Amu. Zyuai's expression darkened, and she found that little Eevee was no longer breathing. And at this moment, Eminem opened his eyes and saw that Eminem's eyes were already filled with red flames, and the next moment, raging fire swept out. Chapter 662 Burned. Under the guidance of Eternal Flame, inspired by the Phoenix King incarnated by Fire card, with the power of Dialga Stone, Celebi processed version, Eminem finally awakened. Spiritual fire. From the very beginning, Kurorido has instilled in Amu a concept, spiritual fire, which must be combined with the flames of other Pokémon and even mythical beasts to reach the strongest state. For example, Dumbledore's spiritual fire is integrated with the power of the flame bird. That is a real integration, because there is a baby flaming bird that has been following Dumbledore, and the two are extremely compatible. It is not an ordinary following a mythical beast relationship. This also caused Dumbledore's spiritual fire to transform into eternal fire. Note 1. Similarly, Hayabu's flame seems to be the fire that has been blended into the ancient fire beast and has ghost type properties. After only the remnant soul is left, his fire can no longer take the form of the ancient fire beast. Eminem I only saw it 500 years ago, and Eminem himself has a eternal flame. In the words of Crowley Rideau, it would be a pity not to use it. It's just not that easy to blend in with other flames. In the words of Kuro Rideau, it would probably take Howlo himself to teach me. Of course, Eminem doesn't think it's his qualifications that are the problem, but that the time he gave himself is too short, and now everything is ready. There is not only a fake Phoenix King, but also a dialga stone full of vitality, which can be used as the fuel to light the first fire. Eminem even suspected that the current guidance of fire card was also prepared by Kuro Rideau in advance. At this moment, Eminem's own spiritual fire rose up. If Dumbledore's is the eternal fire, then Eminem's is the eternal flame. The moment Eminem opened his eyes, not only were his pupils filled with the color of burning flames, but also a flame that looked very violent surged out of Eminem's body instantly. It stands to reason. The little Evie in my arms and the little AI in front of me are the first to bear the brunt. But Zio AI just screamed in surprise at first, but then she discovered that this flame, although it enveloped herself and even filled the entire third floor of the bell tower in an instant, it was not hot at all. On the contrary, the burning made me feel a little angry and full of energy. Do you even feel like exercising? Look at Tomoyo, Sonoko, and even sisters Yaran and Sakura who are fighting. It seems that the same is true, but this fire is by no means inert, because, indeed, the whole place is now filled with screams, and you can even see that even the rocks are burning, of course, because the origin of this thing is very close to the flame of the Phoenix King, and even has the element of life force added. So, Eminem's eternal flame is now probably more merciful than Uchiha's fire of mercy. Not only can it distinguish between ourselves and the enemy, but even for the enemy, it only hurts, but does not hurt. It can only burn part of the energy. That is, it can make people tired. As for wanting to burn people to death, it's not necessarily impossible. After all, you can die from tiredness, right? It may be possible to burn it more, but it will take effects lower than the Pokemon's fire energy. But it is by no means without combat effectiveness. Firstly, in terms of skill confrontation, Eminem's eternal flame is definitely not weak, and it can easily cause fainting due to loss of battle. Secondly, it's like the legendary Uchiha clan's eternal flame. Amaterasu fire is also never extinguished, except for burning people. It can be used to burn anything. I saw everyone on Team Galaxy, including their Pokémon, screaming in agony, and even if Doc Ray tried to use Evil Wave to clear the way, he couldn't clear the flames. Now this first fire does not use Eminem's own spirit as fuel, but uses Dialga Stone as fuel. The power is definitely the deluxe version. After igniting this first fire, Eminem can also use spiritual fire by himself in the future, but he will need his own mental power as fuel. In addition, the screams at the scene were not the real intention of Eminem's fire. The main purpose was to use a eternal flame, which can distinguish between ourselves and the enemy and restore one's own physical strength to rescue little Evie. However, it seems that Eminem's eternal flame is burning more and more fiercely, and unlike the flames in nature, there is no smoke when burning, and it can be seen very clearly. I saw this raging fire roaring and twisting at this time, and began to turn into the shape of Pokémon spiritual fire, whether it is fire curse for attack or fire bodyguard for defense. When burning to the extreme, the flame will turn into the form of Pokémon. Even the uncontrollable fire curse will turn into various fire Pokémon when burned to a certain extent. And now Eminem's flame is gradually turning into Entei, Reikao, Sukyun, maybe Eminem's eternal flame, because it comes from Ho-Oh, and the form in which the flames naturally condense is also a combination of the Ho-Oh gods. A piercing scream sounded, although there were many people who screamed when they were burned, but the one who screamed so miserably and shrilly was the first one. Damn it, damn it, damn it, you brats, descendants of Crow Rideau, I won't let you go. I saw Hayabo's ugly head disappearing amid the screams. Eminem's eternal flame is the same as Uchiha's flame, not easy to kill, but Horcrux is naturally restrained by spiritual fire. In the raging fire, the book next to the blazing sun has turned into ashes. Horcrux was destroyed, and this residual soul was naturally completely extinguished. but from what Aobo meant, this shouldn't be his last Horcrux. At the same time, because the surrounding rock structures had been burned, the hill-like bell tower could no longer hold up and began to collapse. The members of Team Galaxy struggled to escape in the fire, and the time card on Eminem's body also flashed at this moment. At the moment when the third floor of the scorched tower completely collapsed. In a wave of time, Amu and others who did not belong here in the first place also disappeared without a trace. The flame that had no intention of extinguishing originally turned into a rootless fire after Eminem disappeared and gradually extinguished, leaving 2 layers of the bell tower. Note 1. The original word Gabrathian in the original work is close to the Scottish Gaelic phrase Gubrath, which means eternal. The same translation is animagus. The original word animagus is animal plus wizard magus. Because this is a Pokémon, the free translation is Pokémon. Chapter 663 My Friend's Personal Initiation. Alliance Year 200, December 14th. Eminem, Sonoko, Tomoyo, Sakura, and Zealand. At the same time, he fell down from the stairs on the second and third floors of the scorched tower, and what is shocking is that no matter who it is, even the dexterous Ibrahimovic or the powerful Bite Land Shark, they fell to the ground without even reacting. Anyone who sees it will feel that the thing that hit Eminem is a fake bamboo orchid. Hey, be careful. Sorry. After a few exclamations, everyone found that they had arrived at a familiar yet unfamiliar place. Except for Zioai and Zioing. Everyone immediately made the same action, touching their Pokeballs. We back. Yuanzi breathed a sigh of relief, and then lay down again without any image. Zealand had already stood up, and patted Brother Lai on the head as a comfort after the battle. That's right. What happened to you all? Sakura was the first to resurrect on the spot, and asked enthusiastically. Sonoko was also pulled up by her, and had no choice but to talk to her. We went back to 936 years ago, and met a super bad guy. It was that Kuro Rido, Zaro. After listening to Sonoko's story, Sakura finally understood who that ugly head was, and because he was the heir of Kuro Rido, he felt embarrassed when he heard Sonoko's complaint. Zairoke had the same expression on his face. On one hand he wanted to explain to Crowley Rido, but on the other hand he knew his old master very well, so he could only say, Lord Crowley Rido, sometimes he has his own ideas, and some personal hobby. Hehe. Zealand probably also remembered what happened in the past 7 days, and at this time she showed the most helpless expression. Compared to Amu, Chais and others, Zealand was the only one who wanted to do something. After confirming the time she traveled through, Eminem and others do not have this burden, so naturally they will not have the regret after nothing has changed. But at the same time, Eminem recalled this time travel. I won't talk about what happened more than 900 years ago. Now Eminem finally understands how the Bell Tower and Scorched Tower came about. Many things that have not left traces in history are all an Eminem performed it in front of me. Due to the fertility of the northern part of ZHU more than 900 years ago, the big bell on the bell tower, why the Scorched Tower was scorched, why the Phoenix King appeared on the battlefield, and Thunder God, how did Entei and Sujin appear? At this moment, Eminem had the answer in his heart. No wonder they are so vague about the identity of the arsonist of the Scorched Tower. No wonder there is a Phoenix King, or a Pokémon, that was burned to death, and resurrected into the 3 holy beasts. This kind of thing is obviously what happened in front of everyone was so unclear I'm afraid even those who witnessed it couldn't explain much of the reasons afterwards, and couldn't even determine which group Eminem and others belonged to. Little Evie was still asleep at this time. Its vitality had been restored, but it probably needed a little more sleep to regain its energy. Today was really fruitful. I learned a lot of secrets all at once. Zealand sighed with emotion. After listening to everyone's stories you can't keep a straight face all the time. So Zealand also hid her regret just now. I've had enough rest. Let's go. I don't want to stay in this Scorched Tower for a moment longer. Yuanzi urged. Thinking about it now, Amu's fire was really burning at that time. Although only the 3rd floor collapsed, the fire had already spread to the bottom. So even now, you can still see the charred parts of these rocks trace. But just when everyone reached the 1st floor, Eminem suddenly remembered something. Wait. Wait for me, there is a place I want to see. Amu said, looking towards the secret passage leading to the underground floor. Huh? What's wrong? Zealand asked confused. When she saw this, I'll go to the underground level again. There might be something. I can go alone. Eminem's tone was uncertain point after hearing what Eminem said. Zealand and others also accompanied him down their point. After identifying the direction, Amu came to the southwest corner of the underground floor. He seemed to be looking for something and moved some gravel away. Huh? What are you looking for? Zealand also noticed. It's hard to say. I don't know if there is, right? Eminem said vaguely, but then he suddenly remembered, pulled out a wand from the void, and then swept around and said, Alala opened the hole. At this moment, the power of clearing obstacles swept across, revealing a corner that was originally hidden point. There wasn't anything big, just a small stone platform with a box on it. Upon seeing this, Eminem curled his lips in disdain, and then curiously stepped forward to open it. He knew without looking at Eminem that this was left for him by Kurorido. Originally, it was because Eminem and Kurorido entered this tower. No. It should be said that after entering this cave, Eminem found that the feeling of time ripples could be isolated here, so he was amazed. Kurorido said that he would study it, and if he found the reason, he would stay in the southwest corner of the underground floor, of course. Now Eminem is very sure. Why can this place isolate the fluctuations of time ripple? Kurorido is moving his hands and feet. Now that I think about it, many of Kurorido's behaviors during that month can be traced. For example, he often went out mysteriously at the beginning, probably to confirm whether Hayabu was coming, and in the last 7 days, under the guise of teaching under the banner of Eminem's important magic, he stayed in the village for 7 days, obviously just to hide it, so that Hayabu would not notice him, and so that Eminem would not know about Hayabu in advance point. But now there is still a message from Kurorido. It seems that there are other things he wants to say to Eminem. Eminem decided to take a look first and forgive him 10% if he sincerely apologized to himself. As soon as the results were opened, Eminem saw first. My friend Amu personally speaks. Kuroridori, yes, the reason why this place can isolate the fluctuations of time ripples is because I'm too powerful. Eminem suddenly had a tic-tac-toe popping up above his head, as if feeling Eminem's emotions. The next words naturally appeared on the letter, and it was not just this nonsense. Hahaha, you must be very angry, right? Don't be angry. Although I took advantage of you a little, I helped you find a way to realize that ritual. When Eminem saw this, he immediately concentrated his attention point before. Eminem asked Nazi for advice on the conditions for acting, and naturally he also asked Kurorido for advice. In terms of mysticism, Kurorido is more professional. The Dialga stone I gave you, after Celebi absorbs the power of time in it, the vitality contained in it will be of decisive help in the ritual you mentioned. As long as you bring it, just go to the place where you want a rich harvest. After Eminem saw it, he was excited at first, and then with it again. Dialga stone. After the power inside was exhausted, it turned into powder directly. As if sensing Eminem's emotions, the hidden content appeared on the letter. No way, no way. Have you already used the Dialga stone? That's such a pity. TSK. Was there anyone else who was so moved when I read the previous sentence just now that I gave him the stone of Dialga? Slim Shady. Chapter 664 Letter of Introduction. Eminem. Just when Eminem was so angry that he was about to flip the table over after being ridiculed for the first time in more than 900 years, another paragraph appeared in the letter. It's just a little humor from the Dark Wizard. I think you won't mind. I have seen that your Dialga stone may not be preserved now, but I also have another way. Sure enough, this guy did it on purpose. Eminem was even more angry. You should be with my descendant at this time. As long as you find the water card and tree card I left behind, it can play a similar role. There is only one chance. Remember not to let the two come into contact before then. The vitality generated should be enough to accelerate the vitality of the eternal land. After hearing this, Eminem's previously aroused anger finally faded away a bit, although this remember not to let the two come into contact felt a bit flagrant, but it seemed that Kurorido had tricked him. Later, Compensation was still made. There are things that Eminem needs on the water card and tree card. Using these two cards, you can most likely speed up the harvest and Leoca's place point at the same time. If the harvest itself is caused by Eminem, then there will be no obstacles to the so-called harvest festival, and whatever is done is right. But what Eminem is a little confused about is, could it be that this guy, Crowley Rideau, can also predict what happened to Leoca? Eminem never mentioned to him that his arrangement at Leoca's place was correct. Of course, Kuro Rideau didn't write it clearly, so Eminem wasn't sure how much he knew. At this moment, the handwriting on the letter changed again. That guy Herbo. I looked for his Horcruxes later, but I only found 2. He may still find trouble in the future. Kuro Rideau also reminded Eminem. Moreover, Eminem, who had just returned from the 7 Days War, understood that this was not unfounded worry. Herbo, who had made the Horcrux, was really lingering. It is a pity that I have not been able to teach you the specific methods of using various magics before. From now on, you can use this letter to go to Hogwarts College. At your age, I'm afraid you won't be able to become a student, but because you know the founder, you can still be a teacher through the back door, or even be a concierge or school janitor. You can go to the library and borrow magic books by yourself. After Eminem read the last words, the letter flashed and became densely written words. It was no longer a letter to Eminem, but a letter of introduction to the Dean of Hogwarts. As for a founder who was more than 900 years ago, how can he win the trust of the current president? Eminem believes they will have their own identification methods. Introduce Eminem to become a teacher. He also specifically emphasized that it was because of knowing the founder and going through the back door. Eminem guessed that this was part of Kuro Rideau's intention to retaliate. He had previously ridiculed him for being kicked out of Hogwarts. Didn't this let Eminem know that he was not kicked out and could even still do it? A letter of introduction gave Eminem a backdoor to go through after nearly 1,000 years. What makes Eminem suspicious is your letter of recommendation really useful? Don't be treated as a suspicious person, arrested on the spot, and escorted to Azkaban. Right. After all, the last Dark Lord was known as your descendant. Amu thought for a while. If in Konoha, someone took Uchiha Madara's recommendation letter and went to the Sandaime to ask for Jounin treatment, he would be directly served by Anbu. But since Eminem didn't want to go now, he simply put the letter away. Is this a letter from Kuro Rideau? Yuanzi also reacted at this time. Well, that guy wrote me a letter of introduction to Hogwarts. Eminem didn't say much. Zilla naturally knew where Hogwarts was, so she didn't ask any questions after hearing this. Just when he returned to the first floor, Zhu Lan took off his coat and tied it around his waist point, but in this way, there is a slightly sexy vest underneath. Upon seeing this, Eminem handed her coat over, and she could probably guess the reason why Zilan did this when Eminem and his team came out. It was still noon. It seemed that there was almost no time difference between the fall and the landing. Before the staff at the door had already changed their shift. At this time, they looked at Eminem and his group with some doubts in their eyes. Isn't it just to enter the Scorched Tower? Although there are some wild Pokémon in it, they are not very strong, right? Why do everyone look a little embarrassed, including Miss Zilan? More importantly, why did you change into cosplay clothes after you entered? Miss Zilan is wearing men's clothing, right? It's just that he hid his eyes well, knowing nothing and not daring to ask anything. This is why Zilan took off her coat before. She was still wearing the uniform of Team Galaxy. Although it is a uniform that has been around for a long time, if it is recognized and spread, rumors may spread. Afterwards, Amu specially took the time card and followed the remaining scents to find the place where the time ripple broke out, but Silly was nowhere to be seen. There are no traces of fighting around. Zilan also checked. Well, there is indeed life spreading around. It should be just a small accident. There is no problem with the absorption of time ripple. On the whole, Eminem also judged. Things like increasing vitality cannot be seen directly without some special abilities. We can only find out when the vegetation becomes more abundant. When Shishi heard this, his eyes lit up, and he started to send a message to his mother. Before others knew about it, he could buy some plantation or other properties in Yuanzhou first. Another person who thought of this is by the way, Sonoko. Please apply with Aunt Tomoko. Under the name of Mom Classroom, you can purchase some self-care medicinal material cultivation points nearby. After all, it is a pharmaceutical research institute. If the Suzuki Group needs it, it can also take action. Eminem reminded Road. Oh, that's right. Yuanzi suddenly realized when Tomoyo saw that Amu had also thought of it and told Sonoko immediately. He curled his lips silently and then said, when the time comes, ask Aunt Tomoko and my mother to discuss the joint purchase so as not to shock the price. ZHU. Lang just pretended not to notice this. After all, she was a Sinnoh champion, so it would be weird to buy property in the city. Besides, she didn't have much money. However, even though Zilan has little money compared to wealthy people, she still said grandly, everyone has worked hard this time, all because I said I would come to the Scorched Tower. I'll treat everyone to a meal. Chapter 665 Recommendation. After leaving the Scorched Tower, Eminem and others went straight to Daodaoji shopping mall and each bought a set of clothes. Even Eminem and Sonoko were prepared to wear their own clothes. When they started to dress forward, the clothes are now worn out and tattered by the repeated battles. What others wear is even weirder. After changing clothes, Sister Zilan invited everyone to eat, but it didn't last long because everyone was very tired. After learning that Amu and others were going to the bell tower, Zilan volunteered to be their guide. Compared to the Scorched Tower, the bell tower did not have so many secrets. The artificial buildings are becoming more and more artificial, even in order to attract customers. Although in legends, it is also related to the Feng King. Judging from the archaeological discoveries of Zilan, they are all artificially promoted legends. Now it is also open as an attraction like Fenghuang Temple, and there are many restaurants and other shops around it. Everyone is going to take a rest tomorrow and go to the bell tower. The day after tomorrow, that is, on the 16th. After Eminem and others returned to the Pokémon Center, they first sent little Eevee to recuperate. In fact, Eminem did a brief check and found that there was definitely nothing serious, but since they had already arrived at the Pokémon Center, they sent him there. When getting on the elevator, Eminem saw that Conan and Xiaolan had just returned from recording their confessions, and Xiaolan also looked tired at this time. After seeing Yuanzi, she couldn't help complaining. Yuanzi, it's a good thing you didn't come today. You must not have imagined how bizarre today is. You can actually go to UNZHU Junsha's headquarters. Encountered a case. Yuanzi heard this and said seriously, Xiaolan, this is the first time since we have separated, and I feel that what I have encountered is more bizarre than what you have encountered. Xiaolan, I'll talk to you in detail when I get back home. Bye. Coincidence, as soon as the elevator door opened, Eminem received a message from Yumi asking him to go out for a drink at night. Eminem thinks she wants to pour out her bitterness. After all, from Yumi's point of view, she was in Junsha headquarters today and encountered a case. Although it was a criminal case, since it happened in Junsha headquarters building, it must be related to Junsha, and naturally it was related to her. The police minister has a lot of connections and she wouldn't have thought that Eminem, who had spent a day sightseeing at the burnt tower, would be more physically and mentally exhausted than herself. Yuanzi saw that Eminem was still replying to messages when he got out of the elevator, so he asked casually, what's wrong? It's okay. Yumi asked me to have dinner tonight. Eminem also replied smoothly, you are really busy. Yuanzi curled her lips and said point. But even Eminem did not go out immediately or take time to go to the battle club. Instead, he honestly slept for 2 hours. After returning to the house, when the message rang again, Eminem changed into clean clothes and went to the back room to take a look at Zhao AI. Seeing that she was sleeping soundly and with one leg outside, he went over to help her tuck in the quilt and then went out for the appointment. As expected, it was a tavern again, and all they ordered were snacks and skewers. At noon, Eminem was too tired to eat enough, so he ordered an extra bowl of malatang point. Sure enough, just halfway through Yumi's draft beer, she couldn't stop talking. I used to think that being a junsha was easy. I just needed to catch Pokémon riders without helmets and deal with illegal parking. When I was at junsha school, I naively thought that there weren't so many vicious cases in the world. When I was in Giantian City, I thought that Giantian City was the only exception. When I was in Ibi City, I thought only Western Kanto had worse security. When I was in Rainbow City, I thought it was a problem in the Kanto region. Now, it seems that the Chengdu area is even worse. Especially in this Yuansu area, Junsha is actually doing some illegal things behind his back. Slim shady. Listening to Yumi's complaints, Eminem felt Conan should be half responsible. Now Eminem can basically confirm that Conan definitely has a special ability, or that he is affected by a special power. Among wizards, it is the most high-end and most silent curse. Just like the Dark Lord cursed the defense against the dark arts lecturer at Hogwarts. No, we can't be so pessimistic. Situations like this must be relatively rare. Otherwise, why did you get promoted so quickly? Eminem decisively corrected Yumi's misconception. Is that so? That's right, but there is really a problem with you and ZHU. Yumi was convinced at first, but when she thought about you and ZHU, she immediately became excited again. She couldn't understand how there could be such a bad junsha who continued to wrestle contraband of ultimate alien beasts, and it would be fine if it was just one person, but judging from the scale of the current cases involving contraband of ultimate alien beasts, this should be an organized gang. Even after Yumi checked the files in recent years, she discovered that the cases involving ultimate alien beast contraband in the Ensu area, and that until now the origin of the contraband has not been discovered, can be traced back to nearly 10 years ago. This shows how secretive this organization is, and how far-reaching its poison is. Eminem didn't remember that there was such a thing in the original work, so he could only comfort him, Mr. Butte, and left it to you to handle this matter. It can be seen that he has discovered the problem and trusts you very much. Well, Eminem doesn't know what Do is thinking. Could it be that she was really misled by Yumi's record? Eminem always feels that it's not that simple. Mr. Do may have other considerations. That's what gives me a headache. It's okay to encounter independent cases occasionally. Sometimes I have a flash of inspiration, but now I have no way of tracking down a large criminal group. Yumi said, a little drunkenly. Ruffled his hair. Eminem complained secretly in his heart. You didn't just have a flash of inspiration. You had magical power to assist you every time. At this moment, Eminem suddenly remembered that Yumi's biggest headache right now was that she didn't know who was trustworthy. If Junsha, who was trustworthy, best, and capable, could introduce her to her, the situation would be much better. So Eminem recommended Gansuk, Gaoming, and Yui to Yumi. These three people. Are you sure there will be no problem? Although Yumi was a little drunk, she was still logically sober. That's right. Although Gansuk is sometimes rude and doesn't follow procedures, he thinks highly of himself and sometimes likes to show off, and Yui is often affected by his emotions. But they are all conscientious in their roles as Junsha. Amu said confidently. Immediately. Eminem also said with some guilt, but they are all Junsha from the Yanmo area next door. Chapter 666 Training. Before being alerted, ordinary Junsha usually transfers within the region and rarely cross-region. This is one of Yumi's special cases, because she promotes quickly. It doesn't matter. It's just 2 police departments and 1 police department. To make up for it, the head of Yanmo will let him go. After all, Yumi didn't finish her sentence, but she had already taken out the illustrated book and seemed to be sending a message. Eminem guessed that she wanted to say what privileges she had. Indeed, given the nature of the task she performed, she had to have some privileges. However, Eminem still reached out to cover the illustrated book at this time, stopping her from sending a message now. I'll send you a message tomorrow. What if I call you back at This time, the smell of alcohol could be heard in Yumi's voice, so she put the illustrated book away in an obedient manner. Then Yumi's mood quickly improved, and the result was, she drank even more happily. As usual, after Yumi was completely drunk, Eminem picked her up, paid the bill, and went out. He released Star and let her carry Yumi on her back, and then she was sent all the way back to the apartment before Eminem left. As a police officer, Minister of Affairs, Yumi no longer lives in the dormitory provided by Junsha headquarters. It's not that Yumi has started to pay attention to her image. It's mainly because, if the police minister lives in a dormitory, Junsha and the entire dormitory will become more cautious. Alliance Year 200, December 15th. Nominally everyone was going to have a day off, but while Sonoko and the others were still sleeping, Eminem had already left the Pokémon Center and came to the Battle Club. Other Pokémon are trained daily, and Eminem's main training targets are Gungan, Kitu, and Fluffy. Gungan has reached the preparatory stage for evolution. When he returns to Sangzao Town, Amu will start to guide Gungan to evolve. After all, he evolves from Little Elephant to Majestic Tooth. It is an ancient evolution and is extraordinary. Amu is also very careful. From the perspective of scientific research results, even if it successfully evolves into Majestic Teeth, it is far less decisive than Moon Bear. After all, it is not that there are no Majestic Teeth now. However, for Eminem, it is actually more difficult to cultivate an ordinary Little Elephant into a Majestic Tooth, and you may even need to ask teacher Jumu for advice. As for Kijiu, it is the handler that Eminem had conquered before, because to this day, it still calls Kijiu and Kijiu, just like the Muke bird. So Eminem named him Kijiu. Not only was it hatched by the Muke bird, but also because of Noah's protection, its hatching state was fine-tuned, and it was born in an ancient form that was different from the modern Hura. Ancient Zuan-La can only evolve into Big Zuan-La. Amu didn't plan any special evolution route for it, just because it was only a month old after it was hatched, which was the stage of rapid growth. As for Mayo Mayo, it's the bald little wild boar. He's still bald now, but his fighting spirit and mental outlook are completely different. Eminem used thick fat suppressant potion to suppress its unbearable awakening of thick fat. Now its level is steadily increasing, and it is already hitting the evolutionary level. As long as it completes the first stage of evolution, its situation will be much better. At least it will not be weaker than the normal hairy pig. After that, Eminem will prepare further potions according to his situation. As long as he completes the second stage of evolution, I believe that Mayo Mayo will not only return to normal, but will also be able to exert the effect of awakening thick fat. After arranging the training content, Eminem watched them train while writing this time and space diary. The experience of yesterday was recorded in detail. At the same time, some conjectures are also marked, as well as special things to remember. For example, Hayabu is known to have only had 3 Horcruxes destroyed, and the maximum number of Horcruxes should be 7. Another example is to pay special attention to the tree card and water card. Especially don't let them meet. The restorative training in the morning is over. Eminem's Pokémon also don't understand why they need restorative training when their training is very consistent. At noon, Eminem carried forward the spirit of hard work and simplicity, filling his stomach with the free snacks provided by the Battle Club, and continued training in the afternoon, and specially let Zio-shan out. TSK, have the stinky humans finally gone crazy? Do you think you can train me? You really overestimate your capabilities. As soon as Little Flash appeared, it started to make a noise. This time, Eminem did not retort, but just sighed. Hey, if only you were so arrogant yesterday. As he spoke, he shook his head regretfully. When Zio-shan saw this, he immediately became furious. You blame me? Blame me? Are you blaming me? You are directly involved in the tide of time, and I'm not here. Of course there is nothing you can do. Believe it or not, even if it were my mother's mother, I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Compared to other Pokémon, Sparkle at least knew that Eminem and the others had traveled through Yixiaxia, but it was too late to catch up. Just Leocat. Eminem emphasized being involved in the tide of time 3 times and 4 times, and each time his power was limited. Eminem no longer held the idea that anyway, this kind of thing will never happen again in the future as before, but began to be more proactive and preparing. You mean I'm too weak? I'm so angry, so angry. After Xiao Shen heard what Eminem said, he became irritable, and Eminem added, of course, we can work together. For example, simulate it. What should we do next time we encounter this kind of situation? Xiao Shen, who was stimulated, did not refuse. The training method Eminem chose was to let the small plane attack him with, predicting the future. This kind of attack that suddenly emerges from the long river of time is difficult to avoid or even defend in time when it has already erupted, unless one can predict the opponent's prediction. Xiaoji was not very skilled in this move, but Eminem didn't know how to dodge anyway, so there was no difficulty. Eminem used this attack to simulate the sudden tide of time, allowing Flash to come out in time. Although it is not a normal training, in theory this is indeed Eminem's first time training Xiaodian. Eminem feels that, if he was still an animal tamer, he should be able to complete the role in an instant. Even now, I have passed the stage of animal tamer. This can be regarded as a solid performance. Hey. Cha-cha. Eminem let out a cry of pain, rubbed his chest and stood up. Once again his resistance failed, and Eminem was directly hit by the attack from the small plane. Fortunately, the bond between Eminem and the little plane was high enough, and it didn't cause any damage, but it still hurt. As for Flash, he still popped out of the lightning bird ball after Eminem was hit. You're still too slow. Stop talking nonsense. Come again. Why do you act like you're risking yourself? It's me who gets attacked every time. Definitely. Next time. Slim Shady. Chapter 667 Heartache. At night, at the entrance of the Pokémon Center, Tomoyo, Sakura, and Sonoko had just returned from Daidaiji shopping mall. Just then, I saw a figure in front of me that seemed to be faltering. Huh? Eminem? What's going on? Have you also encountered an incident? Yuanzi saw this and called out to Eminem. No, wait, what does ye mean? Amu looked at Yuanzi in confusion. We're fine. It was Xiaolan who called just now. When she went to the airport to see off Hiji and Yi, she encountered an incident. Hiji and Yi didn't go there either. They changed their booking for tomorrow. When they go to the bell tower, Xiaolan won't join us. Sonoko and Amu explained. Today, it was because of Tomoyo's warm invitation that Sonoko did not go with Xiaolan and the others. Instead, she accompanied Tomoyo to Daidaiji shopping mall. During this period, Sonoko also felt strange. She always felt that Tomoyo seemed to be testing something. Eminem's eyes lit up when he heard this. Conan went to see Hiji off and didn't come to the bell tower. This is really good news. As for Eminem's embarrassment, it doesn't matter to me. It's a normal injury during training. Eminem forcibly attributed this to a normal injury. In order to simulate without delay, Eminem even specifically did not let the old card open the wall. Are you training in the fighting style? Yuanzi heard this and asked in confusion. Generally speaking, there are only fighting type trainers because they will work hard on their own bodies at the same time and may train with Pokémon or even fight against each other. Sonoko has also watched Xiaolan train. No, I don't have fighting talent. Amu shook his head. In fact, humans all have fighting talents, but in comparison, Eminem is not that good at this aspect. Compared to the fighting system, Eminem feels that as another element of human beings, that is, the superpower system. He has become better and better at it after igniting the spiritual fire, and also, in terms of fire system, we are also getting closer. After spiritual fire transformed into eternal flame, Eminem felt that he was becoming more and more Uchiha. Next time he met Nazi, Eminem was ready to ask for advice. As for the Kuro card, the only series of fire element cards that Eminem could not use in the past have now become able to be activated. They are roughly similar to the Moon series of water element cards and wind element cards. Before leaving to go back to the room, Yuanzi asked, will we have dinner together later? No, I ate at the battle club. Please help me take Xiao AI with me. Eminem said. After Eminem planned to go back to his room, he would study Eternal Flame tonight, so he went directly to the battle club to deal with it. After returning to the room, Eminem rushed Xiao AI who was so obsessed with research that she didn't even care about the little Evie at the side to have dinner. You can tell from the instant noodles on the table that she also dealt with it at noon while you were still growing. Ahem. I'm not doubting that you won't be able to change back. What I mean is, it would be great if I find you masturbating to Bui when you come back. Eminem would rather ZOAI balance work with rest and not be so hard-working. Bui is the name ZOAI gave to little Ibrahimovic, and it seems it has accepted it too. Although Eminem felt that it was not as tasteful as the name he chose, he had no choice but to call it that point, unlike Amu's other Pokémon, because Bui's space position after entering the Pokéball is at Leoka's place. It can usually stay outside without any obstacles, and it can be as far away from Amu as possible without having to give up on conquering it. So Eminem usually asked Bui to accompany ZOAI, etc. Eminem suddenly realized something at this moment. Leoka, if the Pokémon where you are is, can it come out of the Pokémon ball when the outside world changes? Cannot. Eminem felt regretful and relieved at the same time. Unfortunately, it was not that simple, but he was relieved. It seemed that the beating he received today was not in vain. However, Leoka later added, the fruit connected to time and space will inevitably disappear. Pokémon can go out directly. Slim Shady. Although Leoka's consciousness transmission is still so intermittent, Eminem, who has long been used to it, already understands its meaning. When time travel occurs, the Pokéball disappears. This is determined by the nature of the cone itself. In the final analysis, modern Pokeballs are also made with cones as the core point. As a magical tree fruit, cone itself has not only material properties, but also space-time properties. Otherwise, it would not have the magical function of elf ballpoint. But in theory, even if there are no cones, the Pokémon can still go to the old card and then let the old card send it out directly without using the Pokéball. After all, after entering the elf ball, the space where the Pokémon is located is the same space as the old card. If you just enter the Pokéball normally, the space you enter will be dead silent, and the Pokémon will instantly enter a dormant state inside, without even knowing what is going on inside. Although Leoka's place is full of vitality, it is difficult to feed a Leoka that doesn't sleep for a long time, so Leoka usually doesn't let other Pokémon go there. But can I think that, if you want, you can fish other Pokémon over and send them out later? Eminem asked tentatively. Even if you don't want other Pokémon to stay in your territory, it's okay to just stop by, right? Normal can't. Little lightning bird can. Leoka said honestly. Because lightning bird ball is essentially different from other elf balls. Leoka can change the position of little lightning bird in that space, and as long as Leoka first fishes little flash into his place, and then it can be sent out. Slim Shady. Then why didn't you say it before? Eminem asked immediately. Hello, stop pretending to be asleep. I also tell you specifically, there is no need to open a wall for me. So you watched me get beaten all day long, right? Hello, Slim Shady. Eminem was relieved, but at the same time a little worried. What was relieved was that at least the next time a similar thing happened, Eminem knew how to make Zodian come out. What was heartbreaking was that not only was the beating he received today in vain, but it was also in vain while Leoka was watching the joke. Got it? Speaking of which, why can you ignore the changes in time? Eminem has always found this strange point. Even if we are not in the same space, everyone's time should still be time, right? Moreover, from the correlation between the falling height of the three groups of people yesterday and the time span traveled through, Eminem also noticed the correlation between time and space in this world. However, Leoka's answer to Eminem was as expected. Hello. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 668 New Eternal Flame. At night, Eminem was lying on the sofa, watching the time, preparing to urge ZOAI, who was doing experimental research, to go to bed early when 9 o'clock arrived, while playing with the fire in his hand. If you are a little wizard who can barely release the fire curse, it is undoubtedly very dangerous to play with spiritual fire indoors like this, because the hard fire curse is difficult to control, and the spiritual fire has both material and spiritual properties, and cannot be extinguished by ordinary means in addition to normal water, or sand, or other means of extinguishing flames. It must be supplemented by evil system, or insect system, or ghost system, which is to restrain the power of superpower system, to devour the spiritual power in it before it can be extinguished. The three systems that restrain the superpower system may seem unrelated, but in fact they all have the power to scare and trigger fear. This is also the key to restraining the superpower system. It is easier to defeat the mental power. In addition, there are methods such as all curses will end, which can cut off the effect of the fire. Of course, if you don't consider these restraints and simply use a much more powerful force, it won't be impossible to extinguish it. One force can reduce 10, but for Eminem, there is no need to worry about what to do. If there is a fire, because it is integrated into the eternal flame, or in other words, it is the eternal flame that ignited Eminem's spiritual fire, so Eminem's spiritual fire has directly reached the controllable stage. If Eminem can definitely use fire body protection, if he wants to point, it's just that fire body protection has no use cases for Eminem. After all, Leixi body protection is more useful. 150 years ago, during the 7-Day War, Eminem's flames were able to burn so fiercely because of the use of dialga stone. Now Eminem can't burn so much by himself. Prosperous. Moreover, Eminem has no thoughts such as my own power is the most practical, or external forces will only make me fall, since I can use the power of Leixi. Then after all, Leixi's power is mind strength. To a certain extent, this is also in line with the divinity of Moon Path and Mother Path. Neither of them focus on direct combat. If it were Tyrant, Twilight Giant, Red Priest, etc., I'm afraid Eminem's acting would be very unsatisfactory. Zio. AI, it's time to go to bed. After Eminem saw the minute hand pointing to 12, he urged her, seeing that there was no movement from Zio AI. Eminem further reminded, if you don't go to bed early, you won't grow taller. Then, finally the sound of tidying up came, but then the door to the back room opened a crack. Zio AI exposed her head and said, playing with fire will make you wet the bed. Then he closed the door. Slim Shady, I don't know if it's because, after turning into a child's body, he has become more and more free of himself. It's hard for Eminem to imagine that Shirley, a 17-year-old genius female doctor, would make such a joke. In addition, Eminem is not playing with fire, but studying his own eternal flame. The feather of the Phoenix King in Eminem's consciousness has now disappeared, and it is completely used to ignite Eminem's own eternal flame. Although they are both eternal flames, they are completely different in nature. The original eternal flame has disappeared, but in terms of function, Eminem now basically has his own eternal flame, but the form of action has changed. Now that Eminem's own spiritual fire has transformed into eternal flame, naturally he is completely responsible for his own expenses. He can heal the Pokémon and even restore the Pokémon's physical strength, but in essence it is all to consume Eminem's own energy. Although there were restrictions before, the bottom line is that the eternal flame obtained from Uchiha Madara is in effect, but it will consume Eminem's energy when used. In normal times, it will even enhance Eminem's energy of therefore, for Eminem, the biggest side effect now is that his energy has been weakened in disguise, which not only affects the performance of special abilities, but also the duration of stimulating mega evolution is also greatly affected. Eminem could only for a few seconds. Zio was frightened, of course, now that Eminem has become the Harvest Priest. Taking responsibility for one's own expenses will not be as miserable as before. The advantage is that it is more flexible than before. In addition to the regeneration characteristic that can restore part of the physical strength of the Pokémon after taking it back into the Pokéball, it can also directly treat the Pokémon's injuries, which is similar to the ability of Everlasting Power Point. As for the original ability to expand the Pokémon's fire skill bar, it has been transformed into an unlimited number of fire skills, but the premise is that Eminem must know the fire skills himself. Now Eminem understands why in the legend, Uchihamadara's Pokémon have no limit on the number of fire type skills. Uchihamadara's Eternal Flame is his own power. It should have been recondensed into a Ho-S feather after his death, and Uchihamadara should have mastered almost all fire skills. There may not be a way to use it, but in any case, it can point naturally. As long as his Pokémon learns fire type skills, it can be activated to become explicit without any problems, although there is an added restriction of you have to learn it yourself. Now Eminem can also use Kuro cards with the fire element. Many of them should also be classified as fire element in terms of Pokémon attribute classification. After playing with Eternal Flame, Eminem fell asleep for a few hours at the familiar 5 o'clock in the morning. Eminem opened his eyes before Tomoyo knocked on the door. After opening the door, it was Tomoyo standing at the door and saying, "Sakura is having a nightmare again. Come on." Eminem was also used to just gesturing okay and then washing up normally. It was also time for Tomoyo and Sakura to freshen up, so when they arrived at Tomoyo and Sakura's room, they were already dressed. "What card did you dream about this time?" Eminem said. Looking at Sakura and Zyroke. Eminem knows that Sakura must have talked about it with Tomoyo and Zyroke, so Zyroke, who also knows the Kuro card, may already know the answer, but Sakura is careless and may not know what card it is. But unfortunately, Eminem found that Zyroke was just as confused as Sakura. "I dreamed I kept going up the stairs, but I couldn't finish it," Sakura said, a little embarrassed. "Huh. This is a bit classic, isn't it? Is it really a precognitive dream?" Amu wondered. This time, the distance between the two rooms was a bit far, so Eminem couldn't be sure whether it was a precognitive dream. If they were close enough, Eminem would feel something when Sakura's precognitive dream attacked. "Yes, it feels like a precognitive dream," Sakura said confidently. Seeing that Eminem was still a little doubtful, Sakura said weakly, "It's different from the nightmare in the haunted house last time." Chapter 669 Bell Tower. Seeing Eminem looking at him, Zyroke also said with some distress, "From what Sakura described, it should be a prophetic dream, but this effect doesn't look like Kuro card." At this time, Eminem also recalled the introduction he saw in the Book of Seals. The ones closest to this effect are Illusion card and Mystery card. The former creates illusions, and the latter creates a maze. However, both Illusion card and Mystery card have been sealed. Fantasy card was before meeting Eminem, and Fantasy card was when he was in the Lake of Anger, and it doesn't sound like it's attached to any Pokémon. Zyroke muttered at this time. Eminem's expression changed at this moment and he said, "Could it be that it is attached to a Pokémon that can achieve this effect?" If we talk about Pokémon, there are many that can cause hallucinations. There are a lot of super type and ghost type, and there are also professional ones like Zorok. But, Sakura, do you recognize where the stairs are? Tomoyo asked at this time. This is the most important thing, because they want to conquer Claw card. When Sakura heard this, her expression darkened and she said, "I don't know. It's probably not a place I'm familiar with, and I can't remember the details." "Don't you know where it is? Then we can only keep the original plan unchanged, and then pay attention to the emergency news around us," Eminem said uncertainly. "If it's a big scene like flower cards, just pay attention to the news, but in stairs, if not many people are affected, I'm afraid others won't notice it right away. It's just that there is a lack of clues, and no more solutions. By the way, I will tell Yuanzi later, and ask her to tell Xiaolan to contact us if she encounters anything strange." Eminem felt that Conan was unlucky and might encounter him. Especially today they still went to send Iji and Kazuha off. Speaking of Sonoko, I'm usually a really careless person. Tomoyo said pointedly. That's right. When Eminem was experimenting with the invisibility spell, he sneaked into Sunoko's room, which made Tomoyo feel very unhappy. Although it sounds like it was discovered immediately. But what on earth was Eminem going to do? Because he didn't want to be known that he cared so much, Tomoyo couldn't take the initiative to ask. However, when visiting the mall yesterday, Tomoyo had made some insinuations and even peeped at Sunoko changing clothes, and then deliberately got caught. Judging from Sunoko's reaction, Eminem didn't seem to do such a vulgar thing. When Eminem heard what Chai said, he had no other thoughts. He just nodded and said, "It's okay. Maybe Xiaolin, who is traveling with her, is very good at taking care of others." Tomoyo, seeing that Eminem didn't take the topic in the direction he wanted to hear, Chais further said, "By the way, you have also traveled alone for a month together before, right? It was still in an unfamiliar place, huh? Oh, you said traveling back 1,000 years ago. Isn't that considered a trip? We were living in a small village at that time. By the way, speaking of which, in that month, Yuanzi behaved at all. Don't be squeamish. It's true that Xiaolin is usually so good at taking care of others. That's why she seems so careless." Tomoyo, you guys also pack up. Let's go have breakfast. Sister Xiaolin made an appointment earlier. Eminem reminded. After saying that, Eminem also stood up and prepared to leave. It was already 6:30, and it was already dawn. In fact, according to the habits of Eminem and others, when traveling, they passively go to bed early and get up early. After all, there is no such thing as nightlife in the wild, so when they arrive in the city, they will repay it. Usually too, it was also 10 o'clock in the morning to go out. Eminem goes out to the battle club at 8 o'clock every day, which is already considered a very diligent performance. But Sister Xiaolin is different. She usually goes to bed early and gets up early. Tomoyo and Sakura had just tidied up briefly and hadn't changed clothes yet. Mew also made an excuse to go back to his room. Half an hour later, everyone, including Sunoko, met in the restaurant of the Pokémon Center and had breakfast together. Eminem also told Yuanzi about Sakura's dream. Without waiting for Eminem to remind her, Yuanzi took the initiative and said, "I don't know where it is." Then I have to tell Xiaolin. I always feel that she is very easy to encounter something wrong. This time, Sister Xiaolin volunteered to be a guide in order to repay Eminem and others for their previous help. So at 7:30, she drove her rental car to the downstairs of the Pokémon Center on time. As soon as Amu and others came out, they saw Xiaolin with blonde hair and sunglasses rolling down the car window and waving to them. Because ZioAI wanted to stay today and even moved out a big flag for BUI's physical examination. So only Amu, Sunoko, Tomoyo and Sakura were together. Upon seeing this, Eminem sat directly in the passenger seat, and the three girls sat in the back seat. Xiaolin went all the way to the west and came to the scenic spot where the bell tower is located. It's completely different from the area near Scorched Tower. Bell Tower, it's very lively here. Firstly, it is because ordinary people cannot enter the Scorched Tower, and there is nothing to do. Secondly, because there are many people and Pokémon mausoleum areas near the Scorched Tower, and the overall atmosphere is more solemn and solemn. Not suitable for casual fun. In contrast, Bell Tower, Bamboo Orchid has long been verified, a proper man-made legend, created specifically for the purpose of developing tourism, and of course it is lively. The legend of Bell Tower is basically based on Scorched Tower, and some bugs in the legend of Scorched Tower are transferred to Bell Tower. To explain, in fact, although the original site was built a long time ago, it is just an ordinary sacrificial tower, and the current building parts are all renovations from the Alliance era. Of course, Xiaolin wouldn't go out of his way to expose it. After all, there's nothing wrong with people using fake monuments to promote tourism. On the contrary, Xiaolin doesn't want real monuments to be used in tourism. Xiaolin was also very professional along the way and taught Eminem and others about the legend of Bell Tower. This memory and eloquence can definitely make him an ace tour guide, but Xiaolin then deconstructed these legends one by one, introduced the time when the legends were born, and the possible reasons that gave birth to these legends. This is very UN tour guide. It's just that Eminem is a little strange. Sister Zilan hurriedly picked up the past and present lives of Bell Tower on the way. What will we do after we get there? Eminem soon had the answer. After arriving at Bell Tower Park, Sister Zilan parked the car, and then she took out a small notebook from her bag. She used to be very disdainful of the legend of Bell Tower, but now she is full of it. Looking forward to this is the strategy I prepared. Well, we are at the East Gate now. Let's go to the specialty Bell Marshmallow store first. Sister Zilan said enthusiastically, seeing the strange looks in Eminem's and others' eyes. Zilan restrained herself and said, ahem, there are still many places worth visiting in Bell Tower Park. The real historical sites are not fun in the first place. Realizing that Sister Zilan was embarrassed, Eminem and others immediately changed the subject and walked towards a stall selling special marshmallows. They found that there were quite a few people queuing up. At this time, Sakura gave a slight doubt, then stepped forward and looked forward. Before Eminem could get confused, Sakura shouted, "Huh, brother? Why is my brother here?" Eminem also looked over at this time and found the little guy who was wrapping marshmallows looked a little like that bastard Kuro Rido. Chapter 670 Handsome Guy. Eminem's face blindness makes it easy for him to misrecognize people or misidentify people, but it is also easy for him to look familiar. For example, right now, this guy selling marshmallows looks a bit familiar, of course. Looking at Sinoko's expression of "I just saw an ordinary handsome guy," you can tell that he doesn't look much like Kuro Rido. Even when she first saw Kuro Rido, Sinoko was seduced to a deeper degree. However, Kuro Rido mocked muggles a few times, and her good impression at first sight was wiped out. After all, Kuro Rido is more handsome. Sakura was a good child. She had no intention of cutting in the queue through the back door, nor did she immediately disturb her brother's work. Instead, she honestly queued behind her, and then suddenly slapped the table in front of her brother and said, "Wow." The Marshmallow Boy calmly raised his head and made a surprised expression when he saw Sakura, but Sakura said proudly, "Are you surprised? Ha ha ha, idiot, how old are you?" The little brother rolled his eyes at her. "Don't treat me like a child," Sakura said angrily immediately. Then, "Don't do childish things." The little brother rolled his eyes at this moment. Another handsome guy with really good looks and very fair skin came over with his hands behind his back. "Momoya, what's wrong? Huh? Isn't this Sakura?" "Oh. Ho." Yuan's eyes lit up instinctively after seeing this handsome white guy. Eminem also had to admit that this person might be better looking than him. After all, Yuanzi, who was always good looking, was immediately excited when she saw such a typical handsome guy. "Miss Sinoko, do you know that gentleman?" Tomoyo asked with a smile at the side. "Huh? I don't know. I mean, that looks a bit like a classmate of mine." Ha ha ha. Yuanzi glanced at the Eminem next to her instinctively, and then temporarily resisted the temptation of the white handsome guy. When Chai saw this, he couldn't help but be slightly startled. Of course she knew what kind of character Sinoko was, and she knew even more about Yukito's appearance. How could she be able to get rid of it? Well, I still haven't gotten rid of it completely, just take a sneak peek from time to time. Eminem also feels strange. Eminem, who is very sensitive to gaze, has noticed Yuanzi looking at him from time to time. "You just look at handsome guys. Why do you look at me?" After looking at them twice, "Is this a combination of meat and vegetables? How about eating here? Could it be? Want to compare?" Sure enough, this little confinement boy is not much more handsome than me. I need to compare to be sure. Compared to Sinoko, who only glanced at her a few times and then immediately looked at me with a guilty conscience, Sakura really hurriedly said, "Brother, why are you and Yukito-san here?" Immediately, she no longer looked like the devil in the world who scared her brother just now, but instead looked like a good girl. "Ah. You going to buy the one in front? The customer in the back has given up." "Ah, by the way, we'll talk about it later. How many do you want?" Brother Toyo looked at Sakura and her friends at this time. Eminem didn't know if it was an illusion, but he always felt that when he looked at her, his eyes seemed to linger a little longer. This I can understand if you stay a little longer with Sister Yulan, but at this moment, I saw Yukito's hand that was originally hidden behind his back suddenly stretched out, holding a glass of ice water, and suddenly touched Toya's face. Hiss. Little brother Toya was really startled this time, and couldn't help complaining. Aksu, hahaha, Toya, look at the time. It's time for us to take a break. Yukito, who was wearing glasses, had surprisingly fair skin, and had silver hair, reminded him with a smile, and pointed to the person next to him who was preparing to take a break. Class employees point Slim Shady. Why do you feel that these two people are stuck together? Is this what the original work was like? This Eminem said that he was too young when he watched Cardcaptor Sakura, and didn't understand such things at all. I see, then I will finally help my little monster and her friends make marshmallows, Toya said and looked at the people around Sakura. Eminem always felt that when he was looking at her again, he paused for one more glance because he had seen the interaction between him and Teo too, and now the back door suddenly tightened. Could it be? Is it because you are beautiful? Of course. Eminem still has an impression of Yukito's identity, and this can also explain why his appearance is so good, even slightly better than Eminem point in the original work. The current snow rabbit is actually the disguised form of Moon, the guardian beast of Dark Card, corresponding to Zioken, that is, Crubelis. He represents Moon, and in terms of Pokémon attributes, the closest thing is fairy type. As the owner of Moon Path, Eminem naturally knows that whether he is a mysterious Moon Path owner or a fairy trainer in this world, they are all symbols of good looks. Naturally, Snow Rabbit's appearance is even higher than that of Eminem now. Of course, if Eminem chooses Moon Path more often when he is in high sequence, he will be able to catch up sooner or later, but now Eminem is a little panicked. Could it be that Sakura's brother is also a beauty addict? Hey. Yuanzi gently bumped Eminem with his arm at this time, reminding him to look ahead. Here, at this moment, Toya stretched out his hand and handed over a marshmallow that was wrapped like a coiled snake. Looking at the marshmallows in other people's hands that looked like the bell tower, Eminem was stunned for a moment. This one was accidentally broken. You don't care, right? If you do, I can wrap another one, Toya said with raised eyebrows. Yukito on the side felt that Toya was different today and couldn't help but tilt his head slightly. No need. Eminem took it quickly, not giving him a chance to say anything more. This scheming guy must want to talk to me, so I can't pay any attention to him. After getting off work, Toya and Yukito took off their work clothes and walked aside with Sakura and others. Sakura also formally introduced Onii-sama and Yukito to everyone. Tomoyo had known them before, but it was the first time for everyone else to meet them. Compared to the classic handsome Yukito, Eminem pays more attention to her brother Toya. Firstly, it is because Eminem estimates that the current Yukito has not fully recovered the memory of Moon and does not know anything, but Toya actually has magic power and knows about the Kuro card, but pretend to be a normal person. Secondly, and more importantly, Eminem felt that this guy was also paying attention to him. Only then was I a little wary. Chapter 671 Invalid Temptation. Sakura was very excited when she suddenly saw her brother and the big brother next door, and reserved. Eminem always feels that the brother has a small influence here, while the neighbor's big brother has a greater influence. In addition, what Eminem cares more about is her brother. Eminem remembers that Toya has magical powers, and even Eminem knows that Toya occasionally predicts some things. Only Eminem knew for the first time that Toya looked a bit like Kurorido. After all, not only is the original work too old, but also, unless the setting is similar, it is normal for young male and female characters in this kind of work to look somewhat similar. Note 1. But the current Toya is what Eminem has seen with his own eyes. He looks a bit like Kurorido, and at the same time he has magical powers. This has to make Amu think too much. Even Eminem has some doubts. Is it possible that the Kinomoto family is really the descendants of Kurorido? If you calculate it this way, Sakura, Toya and the Gaunt family from Voldemort's maternal line are really at least cousins. While Eminem was thinking carefully about what was going on, Yuanzi kept glancing at Eminem and finally couldn't help but get closer and whispered, Eminem, that's no bunny, is only a little bit handsome. Huh. Amu was startled by Yuanzi, who suddenly came over. Sonoko saw that Eminem had been looking at the snow rabbit, so she came over to explain so that he wouldn't seem to care about it all the time. As for the explanation, Yuanzi didn't think about it, but suddenly his body moved. Point and the reason why Eminem looked at the snow rabbit. Firstly, it's because Eminem feels that Toya's attitude towards him is weird, so he doesn't dare to look at him more. Secondly, Eminem is thinking about how to identify Toya through the snow rabbit, or moon. Is it really related to Kurorido? However, Eminem suddenly heard what Yuanzi said and guessed in confusion. You don't want me to help you strike up a conversation, right? Sonoko, Yuanzi seems to be an infomaniac, but in fact, she is a lot of cowards and is uncomfortable talking to handsome guys. Eminem has known this for a long time, but giving her a wingman was fine for Xiaolan, but Eminem felt that she was not suitable. Forget it, it's okay. Yuanzi turned his head speechlessly. Anyway, Toya and I don't have work for the next 2 hours. Let's take you to visit Bell Tower Park. There are many secret snacks here that cannot be found in ordinary guides. Yukito was well behaved and enthusiastic at this time. Said, "Hey, I finished the morning shift and I want to take a rest afterwards. I still have a child job at noon." Toya looked arrogant and didn't want to accompany her sister. Eminem felt uncomfortable for a while. There was definitely something wrong with these two people. On the other side, Zealand's eyes lit up immediately after hearing that there was a secret snack that could not be found online, especially one with a hidden dessert. She obviously didn't care that someone took her job as a guide. Point seeing that Toya still looked lazy and seemed to be paying close attention to Eminem, Yukito, who had guessed something, proactively suggested, "Then let's split up first and leave the two boys standing in line to buy this ice cream. Other girls, come with me to see the wishing tree over there." Well, there were only 3 men present. Snow Rabbit went to lead the way, so it goes without saying who the two left behind were. Eminem is indeed not interested in things like the wishing tree and the girls, except for the older girl Zilan, who doesn't want to do this and wants to taste the ice cream first. The other 3 are looking forward to it. Although he was a little scared to be alone with Toya, Eminem was also looking forward to testing him to see if there was any relationship between this kid and Kurorido. The two came to the ice cream stall and lined up. Before Eminem thought of how to speak, the awkward atmosphere spread between the two men, who lacked topics to talk about. In the end, it was Toya who broke the awkwardness first. "Eminem, right? Haha, do you have anyone you like?" As Toya spoke, he kept staring at Eminem. Toya actually hadn't thought about whether he should train Eminem. If he just said Sakura. The occasional flash of the ability to predict the future made Toya see that his sister would eventually grow up and leave him. Originally, Toya couldn't see clearly the person who took her sister away, but in recent months, she could see it more and more clearly. But it turned into a figure from behind. It seems that my sister left after someone. You can also see a lot from the back figure. After all, it is the back figure in the image. Although the figure cannot be compared, Toya can feel that the person has the aura of Earth and Moon. Therefore, in those few days, he even tested the snow rabbit several times, until today, a more suitable guy appeared. Fortunately, Toya is just a hidden girl controller, not a yandere. She just instinctively rejects Eminem. Eminem didn't expect that Toya would be so direct. At this time, how dare Eminem say no? Then well, if you like it, it's too much. It can probably be a girl, Eminem said with a polite smile. Well, Eminem must tell him clearly that he only likes girls. Although there is no specific person yet, it can only be said that he has many friends. But he cannot leave a chance to the guy in front of him. Toya, boy, you are very brave. A tic-tac-toe popped up on Toya's head. No, there's no need to be angry now, right? That doesn't make sense. Eminem immediately comforted him. Stop talking nonsense. Let's fight, Toya said, already taking off his coat and preparing to teach this kid a lesson with magic. Eminem was immediately shocked and said quickly, "Don't mess around." I will tell Sakura." Can this still be a serious duel? Toya, sir, do you want ice cream? Seeing that there were already 2 people in line, The sister holding the ice cream cone looked at the two people in confusion. 8 people. Thank you. Eminem said quickly, point at the same time. Yuanzi and others also came to the wishing tree. They had already written their wishes and were waiting to choose a place close to their eyes to hang them. But at this moment, Yuanzi suddenly hesitated. Seeing this, Tomoyo couldn't help but ask, what's wrong? Why does this tree look familiar? Yuanzi looked at the red tree and fell into deep thought. Note 1. Regarding the setting, Eminem has only watched the first part of Cardcaptor Sakura, which ends with Ioran leaving point. The second part is the second half of the comic that was adapted just a few years ago. There probably aren't as many people who have read it as they have read the comic, so Eminem doesn't know about the reincarnation of Kurorido, and because it's a harmonious version with deleted lines and changed lines, he won't know about some alternative relationships that he shouldn't know about since he was a child. Chapter 672. Don't be superstitious. After Eminem took 4 cones, he immediately turned around and escaped. This guy. Toya glared and wanted to chase him. Sir? The ice cream lady called him. Toya reluctantly caught the other 4 before catching up. But we are almost at the wishing tree now, and here at the wishing tree, Sister Zilan, why are you hanging on a single branch? Yuanzi looked over curiously and asked, gossiping, you are not afraid that we will know that you have a sweetheart, right? She had only met Zilan before, but these days she and Sister Zilan have become quite familiar. Sister Zilan ignored her teasing and said openly, of course not. I just wish that I will have good results in next year's Masters. The World Masters is held every 4 years. The last time was 3 years ago. At that time, Dandy successfully defended his title and won the championship for the second time. He is still ranked first in the world in the ranking of professional trainers. Note 1. However, Zilan was not the champion of Sinon at that time, and the Masters tournament was limited to the 8 Masters. It's just the Masters tournament. Yuanzi regretted that she didn't get the gossip. You two are hanging on both sides. At this moment, Sonoko discovered that both Tomoyo and Sakura were hanging on both sides. When she said this, Tomoyo felt guilty inexplicably. According to the custom of this wishing tree, if the wish is for love, it is tied to the 2 branches, and other wishes are tied to a single branch. If it is a couple who wishes to be together forever, the ribbons of the 2 people are tied on the same branch and tied together. Tomoyo also followed Sakura and tied them to the same branch, but not tied. Of course, Tomoyo and Sakura would not tell Sonoko about their wishes at this time, but Tomoyo said to her instead, I want to see where Miss Sonoko is tied up. Yuanzi felt embarrassed now. Just when she was feeling coy, she suddenly looked at the tree and felt a little, this tree, why does it look familiar? Hearing this, Tomoyo looked at Sonoko doubtfully and confirmed, does it look familiar? Snow Rabbit was standing aside at this time and seemed to have heard what the 2 of them were saying, so he interjected, this is a redwood tree, a specialty of the Galar region, because it is red all over and has branches all over the place, and if each branch is divided, 2 girls must be separated, so they are considered to have the ability to protect love. Although there are no redwood trees in Chyanguan continent, they are usually several decades old. That is, they were transplanted after the Alliance era. This 1000-year-old redwood tree is very rare, so it became a wishing tree here. Galar. 1000 years. Sonoko seemed to have thought of something, and then immediately turned to look east and said, how far is it from Enja Lake? At Zuhu Park. It takes about half an hour to drive to Zeman. Yukito knew very well, because he and Toya also worked part-time in the park over there. So far? Yuanzi was a little surprised when he heard this. Then Yuanzi looked around, as if he was denying some guess in his mind. At this moment, Eminem and Toya came over. No, it was running over. There's no need to be in such a hurry, Snow Rabbit said quickly. Even this weather can't change it. Sakura said, looking at the idiot brother. Seeing that Momoa had already met everyone, she didn't feel like saying anything more. She just glared at Eminem and then gave the ice cream in her hand to Sakura, Tomoyo and Yukito, while Eminem gave it to Sonoko and Yukito. Sister Zilan, and when no one was paying attention, he stuffed one into Sakura's backpack. There was also Zioken in it. At this time, Yuanzi suddenly asked Eminem, "Emma, look at this tree. Huh? Isn't this a redwood tree? Wait, here is." Am said and looked eastward. "How far is Yuanzi Lake from here?" Amu asked out of thought. Chais immediately looked over and realized that they were thinking of the same thing. "It takes half an hour to drive to the park entrance, and here," Yuanzi said while looking around. Eminem directly opened the map on the illustrated book and then confirmed, "That's right. It's right here." But Yuanzi looked confused. "It's been more than 900 years, and the area of Yuanzi Lake has shrunk," Amu said matter-of-factly. When Yuanzi heard this, he suddenly showed a look of surprise, but then he continued to ask, "Then, the surrounding hills are also right?" Without Eminem's reminder, Yuanzi also thought of it. A small hill? It's settled in the midst of urban expansion. In the Pokémon world, it is relatively easy to change the terrain. Protecting Pokémon habitats and curbing urban expansion have only been advocated in recent years. Now Yuanzi is extremely suspicious that this is the location of Lakeside Village back then. "And this tree," then Sonoko said weirdly, "So, this tree is really the time you experimented with a invisibility spell." "It was in my room." Experimenting with invisibility curse? As soon as Tomoyo heard this topic, he immediately came forward and refused to miss it again. However, because he didn't know the magic power of Toya and Yukato, Tomoyo lowered his voice. That time, this guy came in specially to be invisible and plant trees in my room," Yuanzi said, and gave Eminem a rollicking look. "Plant a tree?" Tomoyo didn't understand what kind of brain circuit this was. "It's that guy from Crowley Rideau. He said he wanted to test the success of the invisibility spell and asked me to go to the garden room and plant new life. He gave me a red branch and taught me give me a fake spell, saying it can promote the growth of trees. I'm still wondering, how can there be such an easy to use spell? And magic is not just about chanting a spell. I should have noticed at the time that guy was full of lies." As Eminem said, he started to read aloud. "Then, what?" Tomoyo asked next. "Then, when I inserted the branch into the corner of the room and chanted the spell to no avail, I was kicked out because I waved the wand too much and hit the table," Eminem said helplessly. Tomoyo, "And the branches of the redwood tree were not pulled out?" Sakura asked in silence at this time. Eminem looked at Yuanzi. Yuanzi thought about it, turned red and said, "I don't care." Yuanzi had vaguely guessed it before, because the small tree branch left by Eminem was also so red. It was just that the terrain around Yuanzi Lake and Hupan Village did not match up, so she did not dare to recognize it. Immediately, Yuanzi seemed to have thought of something and said quickly, "Wait a minute. If this is the room we live in, then the location of the bell tower would be Chloro Rideau's house." Eminem said and curled his lips, and then said, "It seems that the people in Lakeside Village really miss him." Sister Zilan said, "The original location of this place, it's just a commemorative sacrificial tower, right?" "Of course. The original site from thousands of years ago has long since disappeared. Now it is the result of continuous reconstruction by later generations and the creation of a bunch of new versions of legends for the sake of tourism." In addition, thinking that this tree was actually planted by Eminem, Tomoyo quietly took a few steps back and pulled off his wish ribbon. After thinking about it, he also pulled it off for Sakura. It's better not to expect the tree planted by a straight man to be blessed by love. It worked. Zilan also smiled awkwardly but politely and quietly pulled off her wish ribbon. Don't expect that the tree planted by someone with poisonous hands during the lottery will bless her success in the Masters. Note 1. The Masters tournament next year is not the one in the main plot of Journey, or even the time when Adu was the runner-up. It is not to speed up the plot, and don't have too much hope for the protagonist's performance next year. Chapter 673 Combination Cards. Are you still very good at making love wishes? After listening to Snow Rabbit's introduction, Eminem looked at the tree in surprise. Could it be that my moon also has the effect of old moon? But no matter what Eminem thinks, Tomoyo and Sonoko definitely don't believe it. Tomoyo has quietly pulled off the wishing ribbon, and Sonoko has just stuffed it into her bag, not planning to tie it again. Then Toya and Yukito took their sister and her sister's friends to have a good stroll around Bell Tower Park. As Yukito said before, some snack shops and even Zulan's previous homework were not found. Yes, only those familiar with it know. Point mainly Yukito is taking Sakura and others around, and Toya is basically only responsible for harassing, threatening, and intimidating Eminem. In Sakura's words, "I'm too lazy." It's Yukito who's been taking everyone to play, while I and Eminem are just lagging behind. During this period, Eminem was careful to test Toya while protecting himself, but Toya's understanding of Kurorido seemed to be limited to legend. It's not like there is any inheritance, but it seems like I discovered that I have magic power, discovered the Clo card at home, and found some magic books at home, and then found out some things about Kurorido, because Shianguan continent was not a place where ancient wizards were active. The wizard circle was not large. As a wild wizard, Toya had contact with a wizard circle, but he did not know much about it. Toya wasn't surprised that Eminem discovered that he had magic power. After all, he also discovered that Eminem could do magic, and not all wizards were as slow as his idiot sister. What surprised Eminem was that during some subsequent play events, he discovered that Toya, like Yukito, had no Pokémon. Needless to say, Snow Rabbit, although he himself has not realized it, or is instinctively avoiding this in his hazy memory, it is true that he is not a human being, not even a Pokémon, not a natural life, and naturally cannot be used. Pokeballs, or in other words, are unable to establish contact with cones. On the contrary, as long as he realizes his true identity, he will be able to use some Pokémon skills on his own. Corbalus, the guardian beast of light, is the prototype of Solgallia, the god of the sun. Guardian beast, the prototype of the moon, is the moon god Lunala. And Toya, he is actually an old school wizard who can only cast spells with a traditional wand. It was almost 11 o'clock at noon, and Yukito and Toya were going to work at the next stall. At this time, when everyone went to the bathroom, Toya specifically called out to Eminem, "I'm not going." Eminem expressed that he had no intention of going. Toya, who cares whether you go or not? I want to remind you, when you go to the bell tower in the future, be careful of the Kuro card. Toya warned. The Clo card? The Clo card is here? Eminem was stunned when he heard this. Then Eminem also realized that Toya must have felt or predicted the appearance of the Kuro card, so he appeared here. What card is it? Eminem asked immediately. Run card and rule card, Toya said. Maybe because he was afraid that Eminem would be careless, he specifically added, if two cards with coordinated effects meet together, the effect will be far greater than one. A card is scarier. When Eminem heard the names of the two cards, he already had some guesses. Among them, the run card has the effect of connecting the space in the original work. However, Eminem has read the Book of Seals and understands that the run card in this world has nothing to do with space, and its effect is only repetition, superposition. You can tell this by looking at the skills it has. It is rolling and ice hockey. In the original work, the violent pay is somewhat similar to the Shipei. It also has the power to control time, but its ability is to make time go back a small amount of time. Also in this world, the power of the violence card has also been reduced. What Eminem saw on the Book of Ceilings is that the violence card only carries the skill one more time. Can this also be regarded as time retrieval? Is it too forceful? When he first saw the Book of Ceilings, Eminem was also confused, but after seeing the time card, his doubts became even deeper. However, after meeting Kurorido in time travel, Eminem has basically solved his doubts. Originally, Eminem thought that since the time card really has the ability to utilize the power of time, then other Kuro cards related to time and space should really have similar abilities, right? However, now Eminem has seen, it can even be said that he has experienced deeply the process of Kurorido's creation of time card. Therefore, Eminem understands how much it costs to make this time card. If Eminem hadn't come to the door for that guy Kurorido to take advantage of, I'm afraid he would have had to fight for his life. there would be no 52 Clo cards, and each one would be so laborious otherwise. Kurorido wouldn't be fighting hard enough for his own life, and there wouldn't be so many Eminems for him to take advantage of. However, the image of these two cards clearly illustrates Kurorido's thoughts. The run card is Gill-biting dragon and the violent card is aluminum steel dragon, both of which are from Galar, a dragon type Pokémon from the region. It is said that Gill-biting dragon cannot roll or hockey ball, and aluminum steel dragon cannot do it again. The reason why they were chosen as prototypes is that Eminem estimates it's entirely out of resentment towards the space dragon god Palkia and the time dragon god Dialga. Or in other words, resentment against the power of time and the power of space. The attributes of mythical beasts cannot be summarized like ordinary Pokémon, but it is generally believed that, if forced summary is used, Palkia is water plus dragon, dual type, while Dialga is steel plus dragon, dual system. That is to say, it is the same as Gill-biter and aluminum dragon. And these two specialty Pokémon of Galar are of course very popular for the Dark Wizard Kurorido, who has been active in Galar all year round. Familiar, I see. At this moment, Eminem thought of Sakura's dream and couldn't help but have an idea. Lun card and rule card are not enough to express the attributes of space and time, but if they take effect at the same time, they are likely to be able to stimulate the rollback effect. Although the target is not time and space, if it is targeted at a certain person and manifested in the stairs, it will make people never finish climbing the stairs. Have you guessed it? Teoaya frowned. Well, before dawn, Sakura told me that she dreamed about something consistent last night. Eminem was still recalling Sakura's words at this time, and nodded a little distractedly. Toya. After a period of silence, Eminem suddenly felt a murderer saw and woke up. You bastard, go to hell. Teoaya pounds directly. Chapter 674 Prayer. Idiot brother. What are you doing again? As soon as Sakura came out, she saw Toya beating Eminem. Of course, Eminem didn't suffer either. Before Sakura came out, Eminem also passed the fire to him. Just because there were other people nearby, even though they were behind a relatively secluded tree, the two of them didn't dare to do it. There was a big fight, and, after Eminem saw Sakura coming out, he immediately put out the fire. Toya couldn't help gritting his teeth as he looked at Amu, who was hiding behind Sakura with a fearful look on his face. How old are you? Really, you can't be like. Sakura looked at Yukito, who had just walked out of the male guard, and showed a sexy expression. Slim Shady. Obviously Sakura is usually the most childish, but in front of Yukito, Sakura likes to act mature. Although Yukito didn't know what happened, he still smiled at Sakura, who looked at him, and then pulled Toya away. Okay, don't be reluctant to leave my sister. We have to get to work. Boy, just wait for me. Don't leave at night if you dare. Teoya was still cursing when he was pulled away. What? A stupid old man. Sakura commented in a mature manner and shook her head. By the way, Sakura, you should keep the token first, Eminem said, handing the token back to Sakura. Next, let's go to Bell Tower, Tomoyo said, looking at Amu and Sonoko hesitantly. Well, now they also know that Bell Tower was originally built to commemorate Kurorido. At first, I commemorated that guy, but now, let's just go to the Phoenix King Temple to visit. After all, I'm the owner of the Phoenix King's fire. I have already arrived here, so of course I have to visit it, Eminem said immediately. Although Eminem has never met the Phoenix King at all, he seems to regard himself as the Phoenix King's blessing. Eminem did not directly tell Sakura about the run card and suppression card, a clerical error in the previous chapter, which has been corrected. This was also what Toya meant when he first asked Eminem. After all, Sakura is the messenger of Clo card and the descendant of Kurorido. There are still half of the cards that have not been conquered, and they will find Sakura in the future. Eminem is here once, not again and again. More importantly, Toya vaguely foresees that there will be other changes in the Kuro card in the future, which will bring more difficult problems to Sakura. This Toya did not tell Eminem. Of course Eminem doesn't know this either. After all, Eminem has only watched the first part. The ending seems to be about Sakura sending someone to the airport. Yes, we have already come to Bell Tower Park. There is no reason not to go to Bell Tower. Yuanzi also nodded at this time point, so everyone entered the Bell Tower after paying additional tickets. As soon as they entered the first floor, they saw 3 huge statues standing in the middle: Reikao, Entry, and Sukyun, also known as the who guards the 3 holy beasts. This floor is also called the 3 holy temples. It is the common first hall of the Phoenix King Temple. It's just that the ordinary Phoenix King Temple is not in the tower. Only the temple of the Bell Tower is layered one by one. Zealand said at this time point, even in this era, there are many people who still worship mythical beasts as gods and firmly believe that, as long as they are pious, they can attract the attention of the mythical beasts. However, in scenic mythical beast temples, most of the people who come are definitely people who come for fun. Everyone just puts their hands together and bows, and usually talks about, Lord Sukyun, please protect my water cannon from hitting Zin Lei Gong. Thunder will not be avoided. Entry, I've given you some incense. Please don't burn my Pokémon with your fire type skills next time. Tourists prayed devoutly with limited numbers. Eminem and others didn't stay much longer. If this was useful, what else would they do to train Pokémon? Eminem glanced at these people with a contemptuous smile, and while everyone was going upstairs, Eminem deliberately stayed behind and quietly threw a few coins into the wishing well. Amu, what are you doing? Yuan's voice came from the stairs. Here we come, Eminem said as he also walked into the staircase closed by the outer wall and jogged a few steps to follow point. However, Amu, what are you doing? Yuanzi urged again. Coming. Eminem took a few steps faster, but Eminem, what are you doing? Eminem stopped point. Not only did he fail to catch up, but Sonoko's voice came to him for the 3rd time. The ceiling on this floor isn't that high, right? If you think about it carefully, what Sonoko said 3 times was to unchanged point. Immediately Eminem understood that he was being tricked. Eminem was also surprised by this. Eminem had roughly deduced the effects of run card and rule card before, so he could also guess their working principles. In essence, they cannot directly change time and space, especially when acting alone, and have almost nothing to do with time and space. However, this is not that Kurorido didn't want to, but that he was unable to do it. Point from the fact that their images are Ichthyosaurus and Aluminum Steel Dragon. These 2 attributes are comparable to the Gala Pokémon of Space-Time Double Dragon. Eminem can feel the resentment of that guy. Kurorido was able to produce Dialga Stone, so he probably met Dialga, at least indirectly. Point for example, substitute card is the image of the space super demon Hooper. It can be seen that if it is just an image, it is not difficult to achieve, and substitute card does not have any supermodal power if it's just for the sake of being cool. On card and rule card should definitely use the image of the double dragon of time and space. Anyway, they are just incomplete magical creatures, and they are not real double dragons of time and space. As long as you are not afraid of being beaten, you can use them. However, Crowley Rideau did not use their images. Eminem may have been beaten, but more likely, because these 2 cards failed to achieve the expected effect, Crowley Rideau himself, out of resentment, he did not use the image of the 2 dragons of time and space. Eminem, what are you doing? Yuan's voice came for the 4th time, and it was indeed the same as before. Point at the same time, Eminem also understands that he is the one who is constantly being rolled back at this time. According to Eminem's speculation, the combined effect of run card and rule card is not for time and space itself, but for a certain person or someone, a goal. This also makes Eminem a little confused. Mew was indeed lacking defense before, and even handed the time card back to Sakura, because both Mew and Toya felt that their target must be the Clo card user. Eminem was already prepared to watch the excitement, but why did he end up coming towards him? Could it be? Is this all the conspiracy of Crowley Rideau? Dang. There is a great recommendation. Please go to the book review area on the outside page to brag about the excellence of this book and talk about its attractive points. This way the effect will be better. Also, taking advantage of the recommendation, please give me a monthly pass Please give me a monthly pass. Chapter 675 Crack. Eminem, what are you doing? You answers. Voice came for the 5th time, and it was still exactly the same point at this time. Eminem also decided to try the rollback effect, if there were. Chappé. Eminem thought it would be easier. I saw that Eminem released Kiju first at this time. Although the combat power was average, as a handler, Kiju's posture was very flexible, and what was needed now was not combat power. Kiju, try walking forward. Eminem first wanted to test whether his Pokémon could break through the effect of the loop rollback point. If it is achieved, because there is a connection between internal and external time and space, it is very likely that the effect will be eliminated directly. But Kiju responded vigorously twice, before running forward quickly. Listening to the footsteps gradually fading away, Eminem felt anxious and expectant, a little worried that soon the footsteps would come from behind him. What I just expected didn't happen, although Kiju didn't run from behind, but, after a certain distance, Kiju was automatically rebounded into the elf ball, not because of the distance limit of the elf ball itself, which was far from the automatic rebound distance, but Kiju's space state was rolled back. It became inside the elf ball again. At the same time, Amu, what are you doing? Yuan's voice came again, without any change in tone. Amu released Kiju again, and found that it also looked confused, and then looked at Amu in confusion. Obviously it still has previous memories, and it doesn't really go back in time. Then Eminem released Gungan, Dali and Pyro. After taking a look at the 3 Pokémon, everyone nodded tacitly, and immediately saw Hora running forward, that is, upward. Heracross turned around and run down. The little elephant huddled together and stayed still, and the shuttlecock cotton flew in circles around Eminem's head. Eminem also closed his eyes at this time, listening to the footsteps, and then, Emma, what are you doing? The moment Sanoka's voice sounded again, all 4 Pokémon released by Eminem returned to their Pokéballs. Eminem is now fully convinced that this rollback is triggered in units of time, not space. Dali and Kiju ran at different speeds, but they came back at the same time. Arpeo came back, even though he was fluttering on the spot, while Gungan returned to the elf ball without moving. It can be seen that within a certain period of time, it will automatically roll back to the previous space state. In the elf ball, it is also a space state. Eminem estimated that, as long as he released a small flash at this time, he would probably be able to solve the problem. At Xiaofeng's speed, he should be able to fly out of range in space within the reset time period. And if you call Leokacum for a while, it will be enough for a supermodel, but there is no danger yet. And Eminem also decided to try it himself. I saw Eminem pulling out 2 wands from the void, one in the left hand, and one in the right hand, both of which were made of pure Dragon King material. Leocan watched silently, and Eminem said he wanted to try it by himself. Well, Eminem's self belongs to himself, and I still need the wand made by Leocan. Since the rollback is based on time, as long as the time is up, Eminem will be ready to take action. And, this moment also has an obvious mark. Just listen. The moment Yuanzi spoke out, all curses end. I saw Eminem waving the magic wand in his right hand around, although he didn't know the specific location where the spell was cast. In short, everyone around him was taken care of, and there was a ripple around him. At the same time, the wand in his left hand immediately pointed forward, open the Alala hole. At this moment, where the wand pointed, the space instantly shattered, and Eminem rushed forward without hesitation. Woo! A whistling sound sounded in Amu's ears. Next moment, Mom, what are you doing? You don't have to be in such a hurry, Yuanzi. Just called Amu, but found that Amu rushed over all of a sudden, and couldn't help being startled. Tomoya could see something different in Eminem's expression, and he even noticed just now that Sakura's mood was also a little abnormal, so he asked, what's wrong? Eminem looked at Sakura again, and found that she also had some reaction, so he said honestly, it's cloak card. I don't know what card it is, but it just trapped me in a flight of stairs at the back. Hearing this, Zioai nodded quickly and said, so this is really it? I just thought that the stairs here looked familiar, a bit like I dreamed about it yesterday. So, this time the Kuro card targets only one person, or is it very limited? Tomoyo judged it this time. Yeah, and I found out the weak spot, Amu said, briefly explaining how he got out point at the same time. Eminem took out the illustrated book and said to the others, let's check the table below. The others then took out their illustrated books and checked the time, only to find that Eminem's watch was a little faster. My personal time is still distorted. What is the concept of time? Eminem asked to himself. I don't expect anyone to be able to answer it. Even Zilan is not a professional in this field. The time in this world is obviously not absolute. It is not only out of sync with linearly, but also often distorted. However, at this time, Eminem does not understand what this means. Then, time card. Sakura took out the time card, but at this time, Eminem refused. No, I already have a way. Leave the time card with you. Eminem still feels that the target is most likely Sakura. It is most likely because he was one step behind and he was beating the rabbit. The second floor is a souvenir shop. Eminem and others specially chose a time when no one else entered the stairs and entered the stairs. After all, if clue card must cause trouble, it is better to encounter this situation by yourself. Tomoyo and Sonoko were a little uneasy, but Mew and Sakura were already standing beside them. As for Zilan, Eminem suspects that Sister Zilan can forcefully break this cycle as long as she releases brother Lai. Let's go first, Sakura vowed, holding Tomoyo's hand, and then walked in. The salesperson on the side curled his lips when he saw it. These people, if they don't want to buy, they won't buy. What are they doing here? After they walked a certain distance, Amu also pulled Yuanzi into the stairs. Don't be afraid, it's okay. Amu felt Yuanzi stiffened and quickly comforted her. Sonoko, you still there? Amu shouted forward, thinking that they might have been tricked. Nothing happened. Tomoyo's voice came over. I'm here too. Sister Zilan's voice came from behind. Don't worry, it should be Sakura this time. After all, she is. Amu was about to comfort Sonoko again. Nothing happened. I'm coming too. Slim Shady. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.